Today, the road to the Daytona 500 continues as the field will be set for the 54th running of the Great American Race. Stay with us. NASCAR Race Day, fueled by Sunoco, starts now.
Over the centuries, men have settled scores in combat. For country, for pride, for love, for glory. Warriors, gladiators, soldiers. They fought beasts, fear, and each other. Today, modern-day warriors battle at NASCAR's most famous track. For years, these heroes and their crews have dueled at Daytona. Men different from you and I. Thrill seekers, wearing oil and gas cologne. Their steel chariots, instruments of precision. And like the warriors of times past, they thirst for danger. They put themselves in harm's way, their resolve unflinching. They battle today not for flesh or blood, but for bounty. Who will conquer the final races before the season begins? Who will win the duels?
In two short races, Daytona dreams can be made or crushed. Fans will see a form of qualifying today that is completely unique to the Daytona 500. It's a chance to race your way in to the biggest race of the season or make the long trip home. Welcome everyone to NASCAR Race Day, and we also want to extend a very special welcome to our new sponsor, Sunoco. So get fueled up for what's going to be a very exciting day for anybody who's watching or anybody who has come to Daytona, as we will set the field for the Great American Race. Basically, we have 10 guys going for 4 spots, but there is so much more to it than all of that. Hello, everybody. I'm John Roberts. Glad you could be with us, alongside of Kyle Petty, Kenny Wallace, and Larry McReynolds. And Kenny Wallace, you are one of those drivers that's feeling the emotions today. You've done it before. You've failed at it before. What are you thinking about right now?
Well, right now what I'm thinking about is I'm doing a TV show, and in 2 hours I'm going to be on the racetrack trying to make my dream come true and make the Daytona 500. I'm rooting on Trevor Brain, because if he runs good, that means I'm automatically in. But most of all, I really want to see how this race starts out, because I said we would have a wreck fest in the Bud Shootout, and we did. And they're still wrecking. So will they quit wrecking, Kyle?
I don't have a clue. Johnny calls it a unique format for qualifying. I call it an antiquated format for qualifying. These guys bust their butt. They go out, they set fast times, and now they've got to race their way in. This is the most stressful day in racing for a lot of guys. There's guys down there that have no stress. They're having pizza and talking about where they're going to dinner tonight. There's guys down there with air sickness bags and figuring out where they're going to stay in a hotel, whether it's going to be in Daytona or back in North Carolina tonight.
Yeah, because he's going to be honest.
He didn't mean really do that.
Where's my airbag?
We have qualifying for 36 races a year. The other 35, you're racing a stopwatch. Today, you're on the racetrack racing other drivers. There's 49 drivers here, but the Daytona 500 starting grid is only big enough for 43. If you make the 500, yes, it's $250,000, but you know the way the Daytona 500 unfolds, that you have a chance of going to victory lane on Sunday, just like Trevor Bain did a year ago.
Well, gentlemen, let's get everybody up to speed right now and take a look at what has happened so far in Speed Weeks. And yes, it has been a wild one so far. Guys, look at this. Kyle absolutely put on a clinic of how to save a car.
This is a highlight. When you see a driver get that out of control and bring it back, that's a highlight that people are going to be watching for years to come.
Scary moment for Jeff Gordon as he ended up on his roof for a long time. Jeff was okay, but the car wasn't.
These are highlights, but you'll notice every highlight involves the great Kyle Busch. Incredible.
So he was incredible all the way to the end as he makes the move at exactly the right time on Tony Stewart, timed it perfectly, and won Larry by a matter of inches.
And that was with a race car that was beat to pieces. But you're right. He knew he had one shot to beat our champion back to the line, and that he did.
When it came to qualifying, it was time for the Fords to shine, specifically the Roush Fenway Fords. Check out the Biff.
Yeah, the Fords were fast from the very first practice here, and Biff was fast from the very first practice. Did not end up on the pole, but I think the Roush organization and those Route Yates power has shown that they're going to be a factor this week.
I mean, this definitely proves that the Fords have got an advantage right now. They're on the front row. Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, they're the Speed Week story right now for speed.
So they will start on the front row with the Fords, but the rest of the field is going to be decided today as we see just exactly what will happen in these two wild races coming up in just a matter of a little bit of time here. It is now time for our race day starting grid, and for that we're going to send you down into the infield area and check in with Wendy Venturini. Wendy?
Thank you, Johnny. Today is the day. Today is the day that can make your career or break your career, and especially when it comes to the season of 2012. Right here on the grid, David Stremme has raced his way in. I should say qualified his way in. He's living on easy street. He said they don't even have a backup car right now in their hauler. But this guy right here, Michael McDowell, guess what, folks? He is one of the go or go homes that has to race his way in. When his feet hit the ground, he grabbed his Bible. And take a look at some of the guys that are racing in duel number one. Duel number one has quite the handful, as well as duel number two. If you look at the guys that have qualified their way in, Trevor Bayne, David Stremme, Terry Labonte on the past champions provisional, $275,000 on the line to make this race. And look at duel number two, who is racing their way in. Well, the Wallace brothers are racing their way in for this Daytona 500. Plus a handful of guys. And how do they prepare? If you had $250,000 sitting on your shoulders that you could take to your race team after today, how hard are you willing to drive your race car? What will your race car give you? For these go or go home guys, this is a huge day. They are on pins and needles. Rutledge.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. We're down here following the 5 cars. They go through inspection. You can see it down here behind me, and that is the backup car. Yesterday during practice, Casey Kane went on a little spin all by himself, which caused some damage to the car. Now, in that wreck, they messed up the front of the car, and the oil cooler got ruptured, so they lost oil pressure for just a minute. So not only did they go to the backup car, they went to a backup engine. But because they went to the backup car, the 5 team is going to be starting from the back of the field for Sunday's Daytona 500. But the team seems happy. They've been working through it, and they're ready to go. But now it's my privilege to welcome a new member of the Race Day family. Let's head over to our insider, Matt Clark. Matt?
Hey, glad to be a part. What happened on that 5 car is what you're going to see here for a little while. They're tearing parts off the top of their wrecked car. They brought a motor over from the 24 car. There's just a shortage of parts, and what's happening here is that they had to go ahead and borrow stuff from the wrecked car, put it on that 24 car. It's just a matter of production outranking demand right now. So one part that really is going to be in high demand is this PRV, pressure relief valve. NASCAR has made a change this weekend, adding more pressure to this, allowing teams to run a little bit hotter, increasing the pressure and temperature in those motors. So here's what it's going to look like. How does that translate? We've got a tea kettle here to kind of help us explain and give us a little hands-on demonstration here. Consider this tea kettle like the cooling system in one of these NASCAR race cars. And what happens is there's a predetermined amount of water in here. This PRV, pressure relief valve, controls when the pressure pops off of here. By having a higher pressure, they can run more temp, and that's anticipation of higher temps coming this weekend. NASCAR always does a good job of taking into consideration performance, and they will continue to monitor this over the weekend. Johnny, I'm just going to ask you, how do you like your tea? Cream, no sugar? Because we can make it any way you want it, buddy.
Hey, Matt, on this day, you take it any way you can get it. We just hope to keep our cool under pressure. Let's take a look now at how you can get involved in the conversation here in the Speed Social Garage. It's very easy to do, and you can get involved with us. You can send us questions, comments, really anything you want, as long as you can be nice. Or if it's to Kyle, you don't necessarily have to be nice.
No, I'm not nice to anybody, okay?
He's not nice back. There's our Daytona 500 hashtag for Twitter. NASCAR on Speed is Facebook, and you can live chat with the Speed Social Garage. And also, we'd like you to send us our questions. Send us your questions for Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle. We may even select and use your questions on the air. It's at Speed, hashtag Daytona 500 on Twitter. So make sure you come along for the ride. Race Day fueled by Sunoco is your one and only season-long NASCAR pre-race authority. Here's just a little bit of what's coming up.
Before the green flag drops on Sunday's 500, we have an afternoon battle of the best and a race day chock full of goodness. Tony blows smoke on his chances for his first 500 win, while Danica chats with DW about this season's expectations, then tells us why she's pumped for her Sprint Cup debut. And we'll get the scoop from Carl and the Biff on why starting out front gives them the inside track for Daytona glory. Plus, last year's duels gave us a double dip of great finishes. We'll relive the drama before giving you the 411 on today's action. While we all want to run in the Great American Race, you have the chance. We'll show you how our man Kenny Wallace chases his Daytona dream today. The green flag is closing in fast. But first, there's more NASCAR race day. Fueled by Sunoco, around the turn, on speed.
NASCAR Race Day is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Follow Sunoco Racing on Facebook. Brought to you in part by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. And by Dulce de Leche Cheerios, with a hint of caramel flavor in every wholesome O. Dulce de Leche Cheerios has a taste the entire family will love.
Welcome back, everyone, to Daytona, where we will set the field for the 54th running of the Great American Race through 2 short dual races this afternoon that will go a long way towards starting someone's season off right. The countdown is on to the duel. The fans are here. And under somewhat cloudy conditions, there is no rain in the forecast. 10% chance, and we'll take that. 82 degrees, 62% humidity, which is very common for this part of Florida. Southwest winds at 14 miles per hour. And again, just a slight chance of rain for the green flag, which is coming your way at 2:19 p.m. live on Speed. Well, there may be no more appropriate name for an event than the Gatorade Duel, but these twin races aren't head-to-head showdowns. They're heated time trials with nearly 50 drivers gunning for the Daytona 500. Last year's dual races were as intense as any in recent memory and a worthy prelude to what is just moments away.
Look at Kurt Busch coming through in the 22. Kurt Busch is fast. We're not going to know till they enter the tri-oval, come to the checkered flag, who's going to be the man on top.
It's going to be Kurt Busch.
Whoa, he looked, but he couldn't do it. No!
You got it, baby. Kurt Busch will go to victory lane for the second time this week. Jeff Burton trying for his first Daytona Speed Week's checkered flag. This is white-knuckle racing right here. Trevor Bayne is in it along with David Reagan.
Checkered flag. It's a close call.
Burton will win it over Boyer.
5/1000ths of a second.
The mayor of the garage area, Jeff Burton, is going to victory lane.
Good job there. Hell of a teamwork. Good job.
5/1000ths of a second. That pretty much says it all about what these races can come down to, and also that's sometimes how close people either make or break their Daytona dreams, Larry, because, you know, those guys up at the top are going in for the wins. They're already in this thing. They're already in the 500, but the guys in the back need to make their way in. But how much can one of those wins, like in the case of Jeff Burton, do for a driver?
Well, one thing that driver knows, he still has his best car for the Daytona 500. He's not going to have to scramble around with a backup car. I was fortunate enough to win 4 of the Gatorade Duel races, 2 with Dale Earnhardt, 2 with Ernie Irvan, and every time we won one of those races, we had a good run in the Daytona 500 because Friday and Saturday and then on into Sunday, you're just in the fine-tuning mode. So I just think it keeps you from having to scramble around and go back to ground zero.
Yeah, and I would probably disagree because Dale Earnhardt, you mentioned him. How many times did he win?
I didn't say win. I said good run.
How many times did he win the duel? How many times did he win the duel to not win the 500? That's momentum. When you carry that good run in the duel over to the 500 and you win the 500, that's what you come here for. Not to win the duel, to win the 500. So I don't think it means anything. We saw the 2 drivers last year. They disappeared once we left Daytona. So I don't think it meant anything.
I really think that it tells you where you're at. I think it's a big practice, a big test session. You know, you can win it. That's great. But then you go back and last year, look at those highlights we just showed you. Trevor Baynes spinning out off of turn 4, goes on to win the Daytona 500. I remember Kenny Irwin driving the number 28 Texaco Havoline car. Did not even race his way in. You know, he had problems, but he got in on time, and then he goes on to finish 3rd in the Daytona 500. So it works both ways. I've seen people go, oh, my God, I've had a gigantic push in the twin, and they go on to run good in the Daytona 500. So in my opinion, it's a big test session for the drivers that are already locked in.
And also, anything can happen when you're on the racetrack at Daytona. You know, the work started very early here at Daytona as the Sprint Cup Series crews went to work at 7 o'clock. They were here early. They'll be here late working on a potential win or maybe a spot in the Daytona 500. Stay with us. Fans coming into the racetrack today will have to watch the front of the race to see who wins, but also will have to keep an eye on those all-important transfer spots. And also, a lot of fans are out here today to see a certain rookie making her debut. Not since the days of old DW has there been as much talk in the garage about a driver as we've seen with Danica Patrick. Of course, Darrell stirred up some of that talk himself, and that's why we sent him to sit down with the Sprint Cup rookie. Here's part 1 of Darrell's conversation with Danica Patrick.
You never, ever, from the first time you came down here 2 years ago when you did an ARCA race, you were never afraid to say, what am I supposed to do? You know,
yeah.
And you're not afraid to ask questions of the crew or whomever.
I want to learn. I realized that I didn't come into this expecting it to be easy or to come quickly or to just instantly know what to do. I mean, heck, I remember at Dover or somewhere like that. I came in after qualifying, and I was supposed to pull in turn 3 on the backside of the track into the garage area. I come down the front straight and pull into the pit lane, and I'm stopping my car. And of course, as you know, when you're qualifying, the thing's overheating like crazy, and I'm like, I got to shut this thing off, you know? I mean, I'm like, where am I supposed to go, you know? But there was a lot of things I'm unfamiliar with, everything from where to go in the pits to, you know, how do I drive the car and how do I deal with traffic and how do I deal with other drivers from a competitive standpoint, what's fair and what's not. So I hope I never get to a point where I'm not comfortable asking questions anymore. It just might be whether or not people are going to give me the answers.
And you can see Darrell's whole interview with Danica Patrick this Sunday at 9 a.m. on a special Daytona 500 edition of NASCAR Race Day. So, Kyle Petty, you've watched Danica over the years. You've had some comments on Danica. Yes, you have. Good and bad comments alike. What do you think of her performance and her growth over the time that she's been here?
I think Kenny speaks to it better because Kenny's raced with her. But I think over the last couple of years, she's made huge strides. I think of all the people in today's race, she stands the most, or she has the opportunity to learn the most. She's not been in a race situation in a Cup car. Her nerves, she's got to be a little bit nervous at this point in time. She's going to come out of this race a better race car driver for the 500. And I think, you know, we can talk about Kenny making the race and the nerves that he has. Kenny knows how to drive a race car. Kenny knows how to draft. Kenny knows how to do all these things in race conditions. Danica doesn't know that yet in a Cup car. So I think today, just patience and be there and finish this thing, and it'll be a huge step for her moving forward.
I've given my opinion for the last 2 years on Danica Patrick. I'm a big fan of hers because I park next to her in the Nationwide garage area every week. I know her the best. We race side by side. She holds her line very well. She's ran real well. But let me tell you a quick story about this argument that I got into with one of my crew members yesterday. And he said, what's the difference between Danica Patrick and Travis Pastrana? And I said, well, first of all, Danica Patrick has already proven she can drive a race car. We don't have no idea what Travis Pastrana can do. Now, I'm a Travis Pastrana fan, okay? So Danica's already won up on Travis Pastrana. The second thing is she knows how to use her techniques to get what she wants. And then he started arguing with me, well, why is she here? I said, well, because she's a lady. You know, it's like Dale Jr. Why is he here? Well, because he was born Dale Earnhardt's boy. Are you going to get mad at Dale Jr. because he's here because of his dad? don't get mad at Danica Patrick because she's a girl and she knows how to work her techniques, make some good spreads, get Big Daddy or Go Daddy behind her. I applaud her. She's doing good.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched her during January testing, and I watched her yesterday in those 2 practice sessions, and she's worked very, very hard at making sure she was in big packs. But practicing and testing is one thing. The green flag on a race is another, and this is going to be the first. She's in that first duel. She's starting fairly deep in the field, 17th. She's going to be looking for her owner teammate, Tony Stewart, who's starting 6th. But she's starting back there with some drivers that they're going to be fast. Jamie McMurray, Michael Waltrip, Denny Hamlin, they're going to be going to the front. I will say this, you got to be smart today, but during testing, you promoted, I want to be like the honey badger. Today'd be a good day to start.
And you know what? Just another reason to watch.
They were harder on her than I was.
Absolutely. I think so.
What's up with that?
You've rubbed off on us.
The Speed Social Garage is your all-access pass to Speed Weeks. Visit speed.com and click on the Social Garage to chat live with Speed hosts, drivers, and industry expert. Our truck crew is there as we speak. On Facebook, like NASCAR on Speed, or on Twitter, use hashtag Daytona 500. Let's take a look at some of the tweets that are coming out today. Here's one on Danica. Check out the cookies that at lunch that they made in honor of Danica Patrick and for her GoDaddy car. Those are pretty cool. Those really look like the car. And making us kind of hungry right now, as a matter of fact.
Still in one piece right now.
They're in one piece right now. They may be a little. Let's hope they're not wrecked up. That was not.
I'm talking about the cookies.
Yes, exactly. Let's go. Let's get him, Danica Patrick. I'm pulling for you this year. That's a little bit of encouragement from one Twitter follower, and also one more on Danica Patrick. Go duel with them like a honey badger. The same thing that Larry suggested. You say it here, it comes out there. That's the power of Twitter.
She's the one that promoted, I want to be like a honey badger.
Exactly. Our Kenny Wallace is trying to race his way into Sunday's Daytona 500. He'll have a fight on his hands to secure one of the transfer spots in the Gatorade Duel race number 2 this afternoon. We'll take an inside look at Kenny's attempt to qualify for the Great American Race. That's Around the Turn on NASCAR Race Day, fueled by Sunoco on Speed. Welcome back, everyone, to Race Day, presented by, fueled by Sunoco, your one and only season-long NASCAR authority. Here we see the drivers making their way into the drivers' meeting just moments ago. Jeff Gord has won here before. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won this race, the Daytona 500, back in 2004. Danica Patrick, everybody has their eyes on her this afternoon. And also your defending series champion, Tony Stewart. We are continuing to count down to the Gatorade Duel today at Daytona, where we will set the grid for the Great American Race. But right now, let's take a look at the grids for the duel race, race number 1. And the starting grid has Carl Edwards, your second in qualifying, with with the pole sitter, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. on row number 1, Ambrose, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and there is Trevor Bayne, Tony Stewart, Al Mirola, and Paul Menard. As we go on back in the field, let's take a look at some of the other guys and where they start. Jeff Burton, who won one of these last year, will start in the 13th position in row number 7. Then it's Stremme and Jamie McMurray, a former Daytona 500 winner himself. Then it's Danica Patrick. She'll have a ways to go, but she certainly can get there. Terry Labonte is already in by virtue of the past champions provisional. David Gilliland and Mike Wallace, both with some work to do in duel number 1. And Robbie Gordon, of course, is not qualified yet for the 500. And if he gets in, he will have to do it from the 25th position. Now, one of the guys who will have a very good look at this racetrack when the green flag waves this afternoon is Carl Edwards, and he's with Wendy.
Thank you, Johnny. Yes, we do know for sure that Carl Edwards will lead that field to the green for the Daytona 500. But first, we have the dual race today on Speed. Carl, what kind of pressure do you feel for today versus what you might feel in 3 days for the Daytona 500?
I don't know whether to feel pressure or not. We've got such a great Fastenal fusion. I don't know whether to, to go be really aggressive in this race and try to learn as much as I can, or try to protect the car. So it looks like that inside row has we've got a bunch of Fords behind us. So what we're going to try to do is go out there, lead a bunch, learn as much as I can, and like Bob Osborne said, the biggest thing is to keep this car in one piece, because it is a great car for the 500.
And I bet it is. Now, we have a ton of questions coming in on Twitter. This particular question coming from a fan wants to know about hand signals. Now that we don't have radio communication between drivers, how much are you using hand signals this time around at Daytona?
Hand signals in a race car, usually aren't good. But here, you do try to tell the guy in front of you, if you're slowing down on purpose or something like that, you want to get your hand up as quick as you can. And you can see in the cars a little bit better with the smaller spoilers. So we'll learn a little bit about that today. Out here in the sun, you get a lot of light. You can probably see the guy's hands better than you could the other night.
Give me a sample. What's come with me in the draft? Follow me in the draft.
Sometimes you get so excited you wave your hands all over the place, and I'm sure they don't know what you mean. But generally, if you're going like this, it means let's go. You guys will put up their hand like this out of the left side window, and that's, hey, let's stay in a line. And slow down, I'm stopping is pretty self-evident. You just wave your hands all over.
What about I'm not very happy about what you just did to my race car?
That's one that we see a lot out there, and it's generally seen on your roadways, most major interstates as well.
All right, we'll leave that to the imagination. Thanks to Carl Edwards for playing along, and he will have a good look for that green flag for that duel today on Speed. Johnny.
Wendy, thanks a lot. Here's the grid for Gatorade Duel number 2. It's the Biff up front in this one. Casey Mears, Gordon, Martin Truex Jr., Mark Martin, and Jimmy Johnson among the first starters. Kenseth and Ryan Newman, both who have won Daytona 500s before. On back in the field we go. It's Joey Logano and Casey Kane. But Casey Kane, of course, in the 500 will be going to the back of the pack with that engine change. There's our man, Kenna Wallace, in the 09, number 13 on the starting grid, and number 1 in our hearts, of course. Kurt Busch and Elliott Sadler side by side. It's Nemechek, Regan Smith, Labonte and Elliott, David Rudiman, Robert Richardson Jr., J.J. Yaley, and Clint Boyer starting shotgun on the field after the discrepancy in the height with his car a little bit earlier on in the qualifying. Let's go to Rutledge, who's standing by with Greg Biffle. Rut.
Thanks. I'm down here with Greg Biffle. Greg, you obviously had a lot of fun in your off season, not only from your sand car, but new daughter. I want to know, how are you feeling right now? How's everything looking?
Everything's looking good. I'm feeling good. One thing is I'm excited about Phoenix because I get to go back to the desert in between Phoenix and Vegas. But our super speedway car is really fast. Have a lot of fun. Can't wait for today to see how it drives and the 500 on Sunday.
Now, obviously, starting on the front row is a big deal, but our fans are a big deal. And we got a question from one of your fans out there. Okay. And they want to know, if you could change any rules in NASCAR, what would they be? Because I know you pretty well, so I'm thinking, is this maybe like a sandwich break or maybe a nap break halfway through Pocono? Or what are your thoughts on possible rule changes?
Well, now Pocono's a little shorter, so, the break through Pocono we're probably not going to have to worry about now. But I think I would say anytime the 16 team says there's debris on the track, the caution should immediately come out.
Okay.
So anytime the 16 team says debris on the track, caution's out just to check it to make sure it's safe for everyone else.
Because you guys are really honest.
That's right.
I think that's great.
I think that's a great rule.
Let's start that. So there's your answer, Twitter question. That's it. Greg Biffle would start the 16 team. If they call a caution, that's it. Hey, good luck today. Have fun.
Thank you.
Greg Biffle. Johnny?
Rut, thanks a lot. Now, it is always said that Larry Mack is the hardest working man in television.
He is.
Now we have to send him from one show to another show. You got to call the action today, Larry Mack.
Well, I do. There are short races. There's a lot of decisions to be made on and off the racetrack, but probably who wins these dual races, who makes it into the Daytona 500, will be a decision made by drivers, possibly the last corner of the last lap.
I've done it. Coming to the checkered flag.
Kenna Wallace on turn number 4, you weren't in.
Yes.
By the time you hit the checkered flag, you were in. So that's what can happen today. And here's what's coming up on race day. Tony Stewart has captured just about every major NASCAR prize in his already legendary career, but there's one glaring hole left in his resume. He's never won the Great American Race. A win Sunday would solidify the defending Sprint Cup Series champion's place among NASCAR's greatest of all times. And we'll talk to Stewart as he looks to secure a good starting position for his 14th Daytona 500 in the 14 car. That's coming up next on NASCAR Race Day, fueled by Sunoco on Speed. Well, the number 48 car has been to victory lane after the Daytona 500 with Jimmy Johnson in it once. It happened a while ago, but it led to a championship. So right now, who better to give us our Sunoco pit strategy of the week than crew chief Chad Knaus?
Thursday in Daytona is a very important day. This is where you get your seating for the Daytona 500. And after what we saw last week in the shootout, I think you're going to see something very similar today. 60 laps, that's the length of this race. But you can only go about 45 laps on a Sunoco fuel run. So the teams are really going to have to pay attention to their strategy. As you get towards the end of this race, if there hasn't been a lot of cautions, I think you're going to see some guys going for fuel only, maybe some guys going for a handling statistic and try to get 2 tires on their car to make it a little bit better for them. Well, NASCAR actually made a change to the pop-off valve. They went to 28 PSI. We were 25 PSI for the shootout, and it was very difficult for the guys to manage their water pressure and water temperature. By increasing that pop-off valve, it's going to make it a little bit easier for the guys to hang on in the draft under the hot Daytona sun.
And as we continue to get you ready for the Gatorade Duel, let's send you down to Matt Clark, who's in the garage. Matt?
Thanks, JR. You heard Chad tell it correctly. NASCAR made a rule change. They increased the pressure on that PRV. It allows teams to push a little bit more in the draft. NASCAR's very concerned about performance. They don't want these motors to blow up. Keep an eye on the cars to see if they're going to be puking water, and we'll just watch that. And NASCAR has a right to reserve to make more changes if necessary. Also, the 15 failed post-qualifying inspection. Now, those shocks passed earlier in the day. They made some qualifying runs with it. They just had a little hiccup there in their qualifying run. They got sent to the back of the field. They'll be fine for the duels, so no issues there, no penalties for the 15. And finally, I talked to Jeff Gordon here last night, and he said it is very difficult to push these cars. Don't look for him to do a whole lot of pushing until the very end, but I guarantee you this. If he is in the lead or behind, he will push or be pushed to get that Daytona 500 win. JR?
Matt, thanks a lot. Even more reasons to watch this afternoon live on Speed. Now, immediately following the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, stick around with Speed for NASCAR Victory Lane. Hear from the Duel winners as they celebrate before Sunday's Daytona 500. We'll also tell you who's in and who's out. NASCAR Victory Lane immediately following the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, only on Speed. Aerial coverage is brought to you by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your favorite driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Well, there is nothing quite as gut-wrenching for a race car driver as coming to this race without a guaranteed starting spot. That's the position that Kenny Wallace is in as he chases Daytona.
The Daytona 500, the great American race. Drivers will focus an entire career on finding its victory lane just once.
Trevor Bayne gets the win.
Am I dreaming right now?
Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500.
But to take home the Harley J. Earl Trophy, a driver must first qualify.
Now, if you're locked in the Daytona 500 and you're going down there, you approach the duels as just a little heat race. But for somebody like me, because it's either success or failure. When I go to Daytona this year to try to make the Daytona 500, or let me take the word tryout, I will make the Daytona 500. I've learned positive mental attitude. But I've attempted to make the Daytona 500 like 12 or 13 times, and I've made it 10.
And now Kenny Wallace, another rookie in the 500.
And look at this battle for the final transfer spot as they come to the line. Kenny Wallace, Jimmy Spencer, Craven inches ahead.
When I made that Daytona 500 in 2008, oh my Lord, just every piece of emotion came out of me after that race.
I can't believe it. I am so excited, it's unreal. Holy crap.
The duels are complete drama. They are a make it or break it time. They can really make you sad. They can really make you happy.
A Gatorade Duel at Daytona Checkered Flag can cause massive disappointment. It can also create pure joy.
Kenny Wallace by 1/100th of a second.
I'm in the Daytona 500. And let me tell you what, it's going to be in the papers tomorrow, and I'm so excited I can't stand it.
I really want to make this race. But I know what's ahead of me. I mean, this is what I live for, the Daytona 500.
And the fans are behind Kenny. No, Kenny, this is so serious. You never want to say anything cliche like that's the way the cookie crumbles or anything like that, because this is a dream of any driver to race in the Daytona 500.
Well, I mean, it's a dream, and I think, God, I'm not a crazy religious guy. I believe in God, so let's get out of the way. What I want to say
just crazy.
is, I'm crazy. He puts me in these positions. He's picked this. Mark Martin once told me at Darlington, says, Herman, I could never go what you're going through. How do you do it? Well, it's because I'm a survivor. I'm an overachiever. I've always had to add on my hand, 8 plus 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm not real smart. I overachieve. So I've never been able to come to Daytona and just be on vacation. Now, Kyle, on the other hand, he's rolled down here before, been locked into Daytona 500.
I've been on vacation at Daytona plenty of times.
And me?
I've been sitting at home watching races on TV on vacation.
But I will tell you this. It's a dream. It's a dream. I dream of being in the Daytona 500. That's all there is to it.
Well, Kenny, there are a lot of people behind you pulling for you today, and here's some of the tweets we have seen. Good luck tweets for Kenny Wallace in that 09 car to make it into the Great American Race. Kenny, you'll do fine. Keep the foot to the floor and the paint on the doors. I like that one. And here's another one. I hope my friend Kenny Wallace makes the Daytona 500. Who's that from?
That is you, Johnny TV.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was
Johnny
me.
TV.
I said that. Yeah, that's me. And I do hope that my friend Kenny Wallace makes it. And also from Kyle Petty, good luck to Kenny Wallace in the duel today. You're the man. You can do this. Love you. So
love
Kenny,
you. And I do,
send you off with that.
Well, I got to tell you what. This is total drama. And I am the biggest Trevor Bayne fan right now because, the great thing about this show, NASCAR Race Day, presented by Sunoco, is that our job is to give you information. So I'm going to take myself out of my car for a minute. In the first duel, if Trevor Bayne is one of the top 2 finishers that is not inside the top 35, that puts me in on speed. Here's why. Because they will always, always take 3 on speed. Trevor is in on speed right now, but if he is one of those top 2 finishers, not in the top 35. So, dear Lord, please let Trevor Bayne do good.
And this is how wild this thing gets. In theory, Kenny Wallace could make his way into this race while standing on the pit box.
Yes.
It can happen.
I pray.
It can't happen.
Crazy.
In just 3 days, the green flag will drop on the 54th running of the Great American Race as the stars of the Sprint Cup Series go head-to-head on the high banks here at Daytona. And Race Day will cover all the action for you with a special 3-hour edition. No other pre-race show gets you this close to the Daytona 500. Join us live from Daytona Sunday at 9 Eastern, NASCAR Race Day, fueled by Sunoco on Speed.
NASCAR Race Day is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Follow Sunoco Racing on Facebook. Brought to you in part by Napa Know-How. Get the right part the first time. And by Toyota, moving forward.
Race Day, fueled by Sunoco, is your one and only season-long NASCAR pre-race authority, and we are counting down to the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. A couple of quick races that could go long on making somebody's season or breaking somebody's season. There you see, that first duel is lined up and ready to go on the pit lane here at Daytona, and the weather is pretty darn good. 82 degrees, 60% humidity, little bit of wind, but we love that chance of rain. At 219 is your green flag. It's live on Speed, and there is very little chance of rain. Let's get you down now with Rutledge, who is standing by with our defending series champion. Rutledge?
Caught up with Tony Stewart. Tony, one of the things so many people love about you is you spent the off season not in the gym every day, but you got in every kind of race car you could and went all over the place. And I think a lot of guys think that's what makes you scarier than if you had spent all off season in the gym.
Yeah, I'm not much of a gym guy, I'll be honest. But, the best thing is just being in a race car. I mean, the muscles you use are the ones that you're using every night. So, whether it's being in the sprint car that I drove, whether it was in the midget at the Chili Bowl or Fort Wayne, or here at Volusia this week, I mean, we've had a pretty good time running in the off-season.
I know you and I are both pulling for Kenny Wallace. Obviously, yes. You're locked in for the 500. Do you think our man Kenny can do it today?
I know he can, because I've been watching him kicking their butts in the dirt modified out there at Volusia. So I can promise you, if will to win has anything to do with it, he'll be just fine.
Good luck out there. To Wendy.
Not that I want you to swim.
Brad Kay has had a eventful speed week so far, and I appreciate that, Brad. Now, yesterday you took a spin, but you didn't go backwards. It's not a backup car. You said you are in a very good mood right before this interview. Why is that?
I don't know. Well, probably because I just got in my truck, and the Twitter truck, and it's really, really fast. So I'm very excited about that. My guys over there have done a great job. And same thing with the Nationwide car over there with the Discount Tire Dodge. It seems to be really good. So I think I got 3 pretty good race cars for speed weeks, and or race cars and trucks. And I'm looking forward to having a shot to put one of them in victory lane, and hopefully all of them.
I saw you just speaking with Paul Wolfe right before this interview. What did he say to you, and what kind of conversation are you guys having right before the race?
Well, you have the opportunity to try some different things out in the 150, just like you did in the shootout. But, there's a big difference between the 150 and a shootout, and that's, obviously the 150 is during the day and the shootout's at night. So, the grip levels and the tracks change, and how the car drives changes. So, you have an opportunity to kind of get your real first showdown, so to speak, of what it's going to be like in the 500. So, it's interesting to see how it's going to handle, and we're just talking about that.
All right, good luck for your starting spot for the 500, Johnny.
Wendy, thanks a lot. Now, Kenny Wallace will be keeping a close eye on Trevor Bayne, because if Trevor Bayne finishes high up enough, that means that Kenny Wallace is in the show. So all kinds of different things can happen today, Kenny.
I do not expect a gift like this. I expect...
That's not a gift, dude. That's not a gift.
What is it, Kyle?
When he runs the best he can, does the best he can, and you've done the best you can, you've worked for it. You're in. That's not a gift, dude.
That's why.
Don't look at it that way.
That's why you truly are one of my best
friends.
Don't look at it. Thank you for straightening me out.
We always got to straighten you out, Kenny.
Well, I'm a little goofy.
No.
I need smart friends around me. That's how I want to achieve. Thank you, Kyle.
Exactly. Well, we'll see who is smartest on the racetrack this afternoon. Couple of quick races are going to have a big impact on setting the field for the Daytona 500. It's right here, all live on Speed.
Thanks, JR. The Daytona 500 is barreling towards us, and today's 2 races will set the entire field. Your home for racing speed is proud to present the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Here is what we already know. Carl Edwards is on the pole for the Daytona 500. He has never won the Great American Race. Neither has his teammate, Greg Biffle. Biffle will race in duel number 2 today. The 2 of them fill out the front row. But where will everyone else start? Last year's winner, Trevor Bayne, is in the field. What he does in this race will affect the outcome of others. Also in duel race number 1, Danica Patrick. You will hear from her coming up in just a few moments. It's 2 duels right now on Speed. Everyone trying to learn something or earn their ticket into the Great American Race. First, before we race, we pause and head downstairs for opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as the Daytona Beach Police Department Honor Guard present our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Dr. L. Ronald Durham of Greater Friendship Missionary Baptist Church offers today's invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, we ask your blessings on the brave drivers who dare to push their skills to the limit. Give them the courage, Lord. Keep them safe from all danger as they strive for position. Help them to run this race with patience. Teach them to rest in your promise that regardless of our position on earth, if we trust and serve you, one day the last shall be first. And in your name we pray, amen and Godspeed.
Now, please welcome from Orlando, Florida, Katina Mack as she performs our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Speed Weeks began Saturday night with a crash-filled shootout. The word duel is a perfect way to describe what you're about to see right on Speed.
It's time for a duel. No, not that kind of duel. This is a duel. Daytona Beach style. Just two drivers now know their Daytona 500 starting spot fate. As for the rest of the field, they'll just have to slug it out today to see where they start their engines this Sunday. And some others will have to drive their way into the great American race. Like they say in real estate, it's location, location, location. Building the 2012 Championship Foundation starts right now as drivers look to find out who has their back and who doesn't. The duel in Daytona is next, only on Speed.
It's a beautiful day for racing at the Daytona International Speedway. The champ, Tony Stewart, ready to go. Partly cloudy, temperature in the 80s. We can expect engines and possibly tempers to boil over. From our Hollywood hotel, glad you were with us for the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. He is our superstar crew chief, Jeff Hammond. I'm Krista Voda. And Jeff, NASCAR's most dramatic day, always filled with high hopes and we know crushed dreams.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the thing is, when you think about the guys that are locked in, you know, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, even Dale Earnhardt Jr., this is a big old test. They can race when they want to race, and if they don't like the situation, they can get out of it. But there's some guys right now, when you think about Robbie Gordon, Michael McDowell, Mike Wallace, and our own Michael Waltrip, it's go or go home, and they have nothing else but to lay it all on the line. I've been there before, and I understand what these guys are going through. It's gut-wrenching, I can promise you that.
Okay, so we talk about these handful of drivers who are living the drama. Let's go ahead and show you our Toyota race format. 2 races is what we're going to see today, 60 laps each, but the top 2 finishers in each duel not locked in. Those are the ones we're going to be following and watching. They make the Daytona 500.
All eyes are on those 2 positions right now and what they can do.
And you see Carl Edwards, he's pretty relaxed, but remember he talked about he has to sort of lay back a little bit or at least not wreck that car. He's on the pole.
He has the opportunity to pick or choose when he doesn't like the situation, and Bob Osborne will keep him honest.
And we know a lot of folks, in fact, Kenny Wallace, a big Trevor Bayne fan, we saw him there because if Trevor Bayne can race his way in, it means Kenny Wallace can fall back on that qualifying speed.
He gets the ticket to the big one.
All right, we know Danica's in the field as well. Let's head back for today's command.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 3-time Olympic gold medalist and Daytona Beach area native Ryan Lochte as he delivers the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
When the dust settles and the duel is over, we may also know which drivers have the upper hand to win Sunday's Daytona 500. Could Danica possibly do it? It all starts right now. Speed's presentation of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. It's the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, the first of 2 great races today on Speed, about to begin. We know danger and excitement lurk around every turn. I'm Krista Voda along with Jeff Hammond. We are about to see if Michael Waltrip, the newest member of our NASCAR team, can race his way into the Daytona 500. And that's why upstairs calling the race along with Mike Joy and Larry McReynolds is an extremely interested and excited analyst. Hey, Mike, will you be able to keep Darrell Waltrip under control?
Well, I think so. He's up here. He's not in the race car. Where a good bit of control is going to be needed. Now, in this first dual race, there are 18 drivers who already know they'll be in the Daytona 500. If you're one of those, Darrell, what's your agenda?
Couple of things, Mike. First of all, as a driver locked in, particularly if I was Carl Edwards, don't beat yourself. Don't do something really dumb that would take you and your car and have to go to a backup, maybe lose that front row starting spot. But there are a bunch of other guys in this race that have new combinations, new crew chiefs, some drivers and some different cars. So everybody that's starting this race today, almost across the board, have an agenda to get something done in this race leading up to the 500 on Sunday.
And Larry, 7 of the drivers in this race and the next one are trying to race their way into the Daytona 500. There's only 2 spots available. Are these the desperate hours?
Well, there is. And a lot of things have to happen right for those drivers, Mike, to qualify into the 500. You have to have drafting friends. You're going to make one pit stop. It needs to be mistake-free. When we get to the closing laps of these 2 races, for those drivers, there'll be a lot of figuring. Where am I running? How am I relating to those other guys that I'm racing? Talked to Michael Waltrip this morning, loved what he told me. He said, Larry, if I go up there and I finish first or second in the race, with everything that can happen on the last lap, I don't have to worry about where I'm running.
It's true. Michael Waltrip trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. That's his best chance. He has a slim chance to fall back on time, but racing in is the best way to make it on Sunday. Matt Yoakum spoke to Carl Edwards about his agenda today.
Carl Edwards can't improve his starting spot for Sunday's Daytona 500, but he can certainly make it worse. So with the pole-sitting car, how aggressive do you run today's duel? What's the game plan?
The game plan at the start is just go. Try to lead, have some fun, figure out how this fast and all fusion's handling. But if it gets real ugly, Bob has given me strict instructions not to mess up this race car. But, it's Daytona, and we've got time. We've got a lot of practice left. We've got a great backup car. So even the worst case scenario, if we were to crash the car, have trouble, we've got that first pit stall, and we got a lot of practice left. So not a lot of pressure. Just going to go have some fun and see what we can learn.
Love the win from the pole on Sunday.
Thoughts of Carl Edwards, who will start on the pole on Sunday for the Great American Race. Here's a look at the Gatorade starting grid for duel number 1. It's the Ford of Edwards and the Chevy of Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has 3 wins in these qualifying events. Marcus Ambrose and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the nationwide champ, both in Fords in row 2. The defending champion of the 500, Trevor Bayne, alongside the defending Sprint Cup champion, Tony Stewart, a Ford and a Chevrolet. Eric Almirola, the new driver in Richard Petty's Ford, and Paul Menard has been strong this week in practice in his Chevy. David Reagan moves over to Front Row Motorsports and their Ford team. A.J. Allmendinger has moved to Roger Penske's team in a Dodge. Brad Keselowski, the lead driver at Penske, in a Dodge, and Kevin Harvick in a Chevrolet. Jeff Burton has 1 qualifying event win. He and Juan Pablo Montoya, both in Chevys, row 7. David Stremme, speed will get him into the 500. What will he do today in his Toyota? And Jamie McMurray, a former 500 winner. There is Danica Patrick, who will start from the 9th row alongside Terry Labonte, who won this race in '89. Michael Waltrip is going to have to come from row 10, where he lines up next to Denny Hamlin, who won one of these in 2008. Michael McDowell driving for Phil Parsons. He raced his way in a couple of years ago. Landon Castle for the new BK team. Then David Gilliland in a front row Ford, and Mike Wallace in a Ford trying to race his way in for 24th. And finally, Robbie Gordon's Dodge is the 25th starter in the field.
Well, let's see if we can talk to Michael McDowell. Hey, Michael McDowell, this is Darrell Waltrip up in the Fox Sports booth, speed booth today. Got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, D-Dub.
Hey, buddy, you raced your way in here in 10, and you missed a race last year. Got a pretty good hot rod today. What's your ticket for making the 500?
We know it's going to be exciting, but, I'm excited to be driving this Curve Academy 98 car for K-Love. And the key is just to beat all those other go-go homers. I got your brother here in front of me, which last time I checked, he was pretty good here, too. So just going to try to find some friends out there, maybe hook up with my buddy Trevor Bayne or Ricky Stenhouse and get to the front, try to stay up there.
Good deal, buddy. Sounds like you got a plan, and you got some good friends, so good luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
Micah McDowell will start 21st. Let's get down to pit road for late-breaking stories, beginning with Matt Yoakum.
Mike Dale Earnhardt Jr. shares the front row with Carl Edwards. The message from crew chief Steve Letarte is simple. Play, have fun, but race smart during this duel. We don't want to have to pull a backup car out and use a mulligan. They have a very impressive car from practice, and Dale Jr., he's got that swagger back, Mike, and he's got the confidence back. So Junior Nation should be very excited as we head ever closer to the Daytona 500. To Dick Bergeron.
Trevor Bayne won last year's Daytona 500, and he has had a very fast car this speed weeks as well. So take it easy in this race, preserve the car, or go for it. They're going to go for it. They want another Daytona trophy. Steve Burns.
Dick Kevin Harvick entering his 12th full year for Richard Childress Racing, never a Sprint Cup champion. To that end, he's made changes in his personal and professional life. He and his wife have sold their race teams. He has a new crew chief. Many of the team members are new, and he and his wife expecting their first child July 23rd.
Thanks, fellas. As we get ready to race in Daytona, I think the big question mark in this event is inside row number 3, Trevor Bayne. He knows his speed is fast enough to get him in the 500. And Darrell, might he be a little gun shy, because last year in the qualifying race, on the very last lap, they ended up doing a lot of damage to that car. Whether or not he goes the distance in this may help seal the fate of several other drivers trying to make the show.
I think it's simple, Mike. If you're in a situation where you're uncomfortable, you got somebody back there moving all around the back of your car, pushing on that bumper, you better get them off of the bumper. They're going to spin you out. So you got to use your head today. You got to pick a partner that you're comfortable with. Then you need to stay up front. Even though there's no real safe place, I'd rather be up front.
Why are car owners and crew chiefs so nervous coming into Thursday? It's because the slightest of contacts all week long have resulted in calamity, whether it was in practice or in the Budweiser shootout. A lot of cars have been damaged by what just looks like incidental contact.
And it's just so slight a touch on the left rear this year. These cars are a lot looser than they were here last year. The spoiler size has been reduced. The rear spring rates have been reduced. These cars are real free in the back end. And if it takes a little touch like that, and around you go. And every now and then,
over you go.
Over you go.
Plenty of sparks so far as we get set to go 60 laps here in Daytona. 55 along pit road. And the fuel window, Larry, is going to be critical. How soon do you want to stop?
Well, I think if you get to where you can make it to the end, if you get somewhere around lap 12 to 15 and you get a caution, I think we'll see all these drivers on pit road. At least you get that out of the way. You're full of fuel to go to the end.
Last night on speed, you saw Kenny Wallace and his lead up to Thursday trying to make the race here in Daytona. The drivers above that white line we know will be in the race, at least on speed or perhaps Champions Provisional in Terry Labonte's case. Everyone else below the line trying to race in or hope that someone above the line races in and they can fall back on their speed. Kenny?
Come on, big guy, suck it up.
Yeah,
it's all right.
He'll be in race number 2. He and his wife Kim looking on and trying to lock in. Across the top of the screen, our ticker will show 2 positions in green. Those are the 2 cars that at that moment are in the field based on their race position. We'll deal with speeds and provisionals later, but just the top 2 in that group of go or go homers will be shown as we get ready to begin the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Green flag in the air. Carl Edwards hauls him off toward turn 1. Robbie Gordon in trouble. Smoke billowing from his Dodge toward the back of the pack. Gordon's only shot to make the race, to race his way in today.
Yeah, he cannot fall back on his qualifying time, so this is not good for Robbie Gordon here on the first lap of this Gatorade Duel.
Could be a couple of things. Could be a tire rub. Sometime they work on the engines. They get a little oil on the headers, messing around with it. But that looks like possibly a tire rub.
Right front on Robbie Gordon. Carl Edwards led them to the green. He will lead lap 1 with Dale Jr. in tow and Ricky Stenhouse. Now he moves up high, and he could get freight trained on both sides. Nope, back down to the bottom. Tony Stewart on the charge. up high with Paul Menard and his Richard Childress teammate in the 29, Kevin Harvick, giving Menard an assist.
One thing I noticed, really strong tailwind going down this back straightaway. That'll pick you up 7, 8, 10 miles an hour. Hauling off into that third turn could change your car dramatically.
Trevor Bayne, Michael Waltrip in the race-in spots right now. Three wide mid-pack. That's Jeff Burton in the middle. Just up ahead of Michael Waltrip. One thing we saw a lot of in practice was Menard and Harvick working together, constantly pushing. They're on the outside, but, well, the bottom lane's going to go for now.
It's amazing the way it works here, though. The Fords had so much speed in single car qualifying, but when you put them in a big pack, you start drafting, it becomes an equalizer. Anybody can go up there.
Yeah, one thing that you really, you look at this right now and say, okay, we're okay, pretty calm, everything's going well. But, man, as we've seen, just one little tap on that left rear by someone accidentally, and you're in big trouble.
And back that pair of Menard and Harvick go as Trevor Bayne and Michael McDowell are now in the transfer spots. McDowell on the bubble ahead of Waltrip, Labonte, Wallace, and Stremme.
Mike, you're driving these cars. I mean, obviously the driver's in control, but with the wind blowing the way it is, the turbulence off the other cars, these things move around more than you think they do, and sometimes it wiggles and the guy bumps you from the rear, and around you go.
One car on pit road, Landon Castle. Changing tires. Now he is locked into the 500 field. Edwards and Bayne working together, trying to split the Chevrolets of Stewart and Earnhardt. Almirola in a third Ford coming up the inside in the 43.
Another thing today, Larry, it's hotter today. Bright sunshine on this racetrack, pretty warm temperatures. That changes the way your car drives as well.
You look up there at the front, though, you see Trevor Bayne in that 21 pushing Carl Edwards. Remember, they finished 1-2 in the Daytona 500, just reverse of what they were last year. But there goes Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the bottom. He takes the lead.
Well, Carl got loose, Larry. Carl got loose, and Trevor had to get off of him, and it broke their momentum.
McMurray with a look outside of Menard. As Bayne tries to help Edwards back to the front, it is Marcus Ambrose. The Tasmanian in second spot now behind Junior as they come to complete 5 laps. Edwards to the bottom with Bayne. Can't get the lead at the line.
We're 5 laps into this, and we have 15 drivers within 3/4 of a second of each other.
Well, Trevor went into turn 1 then, and the car really went up the hill, but he was able to stay in contact with Carl. And now Trevor looks like he's going to drop to the inside of the 21 car and go to the lead.
An interesting combination of the 2-car push-pull and pack racing in these opening laps.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Get ready for some noise.
Denny Hamlin in the 11 being pushed back McMurray in the 1. Denny Hamlin started back in the 20th position in that 11 car.
Four cars trying to break away single file at the front. And not getting very far away, are they? Dick Bergman?
Well, Denny Hamlin told me right before the start of this race that he wasn't going to try to preserve his car either. It was to the front. That is number 11's strategy in this event.
Mike, about 15 laps, 15 to 18 laps. That's when the tires have built up max pressure. That's when all your temps are at max operating temperature. And that's when your car starts to change. Burning off a little fuel, things starts to tighten up a little bit. Right now, we're in a transition from the way the car started to what you're going to have the rest of the race.
Right now, the transfer spots, Michael McDowell and Trevor Bayne. Steve Burns?
Mike, just listening to Kevin Harvick, he said that it was a little bit too early. He didn't want the engine to get too hot to be pushing too much right now.
We definitely have warmer temperatures today than we had in practice yesterday, and for sure in the Budweiser shootout on Saturday night. That's something your driver really has to be careful about.
You know, Larry, right now, if I were in the race, I would be locked in pretty in a starting position for the 500. I'm not so sure I wouldn't just ride around a little bit here. Stay in contact and let things shake out. Stay on the lead lap, but don't get up there and get too racy just right now.
Suddenly shot to the outside wall and took 3 more with it. That's Paul Menard on the right, Montoya in the middle, and that's David Gilliland to the left. There was one other car involved, but one car, I believe Montoya's, took a huge hit to the outside wall.
Yeah, something happened. The car just shot up the banking. Let's see if we can get a look at it.
Left lane to the inside, Gilliland.
Oh, he's loose. He's already sideways getting in, and he just comes right back up the hill.
Looked like Michael McDowell got David Gilliland in that left rear quarter panel, turning off in the corner. You were talking about that.
Yep.
Now, all 3 of these cars are in the race. You're going to look way to the right side of the screen.
Man, it came back up that hill in a hurry.
Yeah, Montoya in the 42, Menard in the 27, just victims, nowhere to go.
And the 4th car involved is Brad Keselowski in the 2, who has come to pit road for repairs. Here's another look. Trevor Bayne got a little damage, not much.
McDowell was real lucky he didn't get involved in that 98 car.
Danica Patrick scoots past. And all 3 of these drivers have climbed from their cars okay.
The 2 cars on pit road as well. He had some damage, got some right side damage.
Gosh. Easy. Slow down. You can go low. Clear all the way low to the apron. Get down to the apron. Let's go. Get through there. Good job.
Our Fox and Speed Exmo, extreme slow motion of what was on Pablo Montoya's car.
Look at that. I mean, just look at all the parts and pieces. The engine is moving. The radiator is falling out. Those bars that are all welded to the frame coming off. That thing is just it's just coming apart.
Well, when this wreck starts, these drivers are going off in the corner almost 200 miles an hour.
Among the interested onlookers, Kenny and Kim Wallace. Kenny will be in race 2 trying to race his way in. Now, this accident on lap 9 has no effect on Wallace's chances because it involved 4 cars that are locked into the 500.
But do you see, Kenny Wallace is a race car driver. You see his reaction. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like I am. When I see a wreck like that, the first thing I think of is, man, I hope nobody gets hurt. And it's the mentality of a driver.
Pit stops, Dick Berggren.
Trevor Bayne coming down pit road for fuel at least, and tires as well. He almost certainly is going to need more fuel to finish it. Matt.
Dale Jr. easy into his pit box, not to slide the tires. Slight chassis adjustment, and Caleb Hurd tops him off. Steve?
Matt, Richard Childress Racing teammates Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick in, both taking 4 tires at gas. They think they're close enough to their window where they might be able to make it. Harvick concerned about running a little bit too hot.
Dale Jr. leads the race off pit road, and Carl Edwards, who will start the 500 from the pole, is in no hurry. Marcus Ambrose stayed on the racetrack. So did Denny Hamlin, David Stremme, and Terry Labonte. Grinding crash down in turn 1. Speed's presentation of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona is presented by Gatorade. Gatorade knows it all begins within. Win from within. And brought to you in part by Napa Know-How. Get the right part the first time. And by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. A 4-car pileup in turn number 1, primarily Paul Menard, David Gilliland. Gilliland spinning off the front bumper of Michael McDowell, taking Montoya and Menard to the wall, and some right side damage for Brad Keselowski. Here's another look at it, and Gilliland's team has 3 cars entered in the 500 and only 2 backup cars. Juan Pablo Montoya's Target Chevrolet taking the long ride back to the garage area. He probably received the most damage of all the cars involved in this lap 9 pileup. Now, immediately following the duel at Daytona, stay right here on Speed for NASCAR Victory Lane. Hear from the duel winners, see how the field will start the 500, and more. All on NASCAR Victory Lane immediately following the Gatorade Duel at Daytona right here on Speed. A number of cars came in and topped off during this last caution lap, leaving only Marcus Ambrose and Denny Hamlin, who have not stopped at the front of this field.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Danica Patrick came back to pit road. They got the one to go. That's 48 laps to go. I think they can make it to the end now.
Of 60 laps complete. Ambrose out front on the inside with his teammate at Richard Petty Motorsports, Eric Almirola, trying to give him a boost. Now Dale Earnhardt Jr. had to restart in the back. Matt?
Mike, an issue during their pit stop. One of the crew members went over the wall too soon. He said that he slipped and fell, but nonetheless, he was over the wall too soon. NASCAR penalized him since Junior was coming back down pit road. What Steve Letarte did was simply go to his backup plan. 4 fresh tires, and he took a lot of time packing that fuel cell full of fuel.
The other issue Junior has, not an issue necessarily, but he's telling his spotter up there, talk, man, talk. Tell me what's going on. Talk constantly.
You see Robbie Gordon right there in the 7 car. I think that caution was a huge break for him. Remember, when the race started, he had a lot of smoke coming out of the right front. They stayed on the racetrack. They made the repairs under that caution, and he's not in the transfer spot, but he's sitting there running close to the top 10.
That's the whole thing, Larry. As long as you can stay on the lead lap until the very end here, get everybody grouped up in these big packs, you got a chance.
3 cars knocked out in that crash at lap 9. Dick Berggren is with one of the drivers.
If the car can't be driven back to the garage, the driver goes to the care center. Paul Menard has just walked out of the care center. What happened?
Oh, I don't know. I saw a gill wing got spun on the bottom, and I kept my foot in trying to clear it, and just didn't quite make it. But you know, this plate racing deal is pretty tough right now. It's kind of a hybrid of the two, the pack draft and the tandem draft, and just not working out very well.
Going to start in the back of the Daytona 500. Paul Menard.
Thanks, Dick. Also in the garage, Landon Castle drove into the garage. First car out of the race. Terry Labonte, after a long pit stop, has just gone to the garage, so he will make the 500, virtue of the champions provisional. Gilliland, Montoya, and Menard also out as Tony Stewart comes back to the lead.
What Menard is saying is it's kind of like, I'm not sure, you know, I know pushing is faster, but it's also more treacherous. And so you're sitting there, do or don't, and that indecision sometimes gets you in a lot of trouble.
You see Michael McDowell right there in the 98 car. Remember what Michael Waltrip told me this morning. Go up there and finish in the top 2. You don't have to worry about who you beat. Michael McDowell is inside the top 5 right now with that 98 car.
Well, I sort of remember what he told me when we talked to him on the parade lap. I got some good buddies out here, and one of them's right behind him.
Trevor Bayne in that 21.
And Trevor Bayne's biggest fan right now is Kenny Wallace, because if Bayne races his way into the 500, that opens up a place in the big race for the next fastest car from time trial speed, and that would be Kenny.
See on the outside there, now the other Richard Childress driver is out of the show. Paul Menard, we just talked to him, but you see Jeff Burton in the 31 being pushed by Kevin Harvick in that 29.
And just remember, the 11 car of Denny Hamlin leading the race. Where did he start?
37th in qualifying.
And so, you know, Junior has to go to the back. You know, it's not a big deal in this kind of racing.
Denny Hamlin has come from 20th on the grid to 1st. Now, he did stay out when everyone else made pit stops, but he has the front spot, and right now the 2 transfer positions are Michael McDowell, 2nd overall, and Trevor Bayne.
Yeah, we know Denny Hamlin in the 11 and also Marcus Ambrose in the 9, who's running 15th right now. They still have to make a pit stop to make it on fuel.
So watch these guys go off in the first turn. I think back to that red. Those guys are entering that corner right at 200 mile an hour. So when you get in trouble going in a corner like that, you've only got about 40 feet to brush it, run off 200-mile-an-hour speed before you hit the wall.
18 laps complete, and this pack has spread itself out quite a bit from what we saw in the first 8 laps.
Look at Michael Waltrip in the 40 on the outside. He's moved back into the top 10, but still not in one of the transfer spots. Right now, that's McDowell and Bain running 3rd and 7th.
And Bain dropping way back, and Michael Waltrip passes Trevor on the outside, and now McDowell and Waltrip are in the transfer positions. Dale Jr. wasted no time getting back toward the front as he and Jamie McMurray worked the outside.
Yeah, we just restarted this race 6 laps ago. He had to start at the rear, and there he's up there inside the top 5.
Well, when you're in the back like that, it's like a big old vacuum cleaner. It's just sucking you right to the front.
Right now, McDowell and Waltrip in. There's Bain trying to help McDowell, who presently is back in.
And this is the seesaw battle we're going to see right to the very end. And that's why I say, as long as you can stay kind of in a little bit of a hunt, you're going to be okay. You got a shot.
One-third distance in the first of 2. Gatorade Duel 150s at Daytona. Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick out front. 24 complete at Daytona in the first of the Gatorade Duels. Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, Michael McDowell, Trevor Bain in the qualified positions. Bain battling Michael Waltrip for the bubble spot.
I really like the way Trevor is in the 21 car is drafting, though. I noticed when he was with McDowell, he would push in all the right places. Then he'd back off, get a little cushion in the corners. He's got a fast car. He can run up there anytime he wants to, but he's really using that fast car wisely.
Mike Wallace came to pit road. His Point.com Ford went back out after a lengthy stop. 2 laps down in his attempt to make the 500. Steve Burns.
Mike, just heard Eric Almirola talk about getting a big shove going into turn 3. He told his team, I had the wheel turned all the way to the left, but it would not turn. The car wanted to keep going straight. We're going to have to fix that for the 500.
He is right behind Jamie Mack on the outside.
I know what that feels like, man. You go in a corner and the car is so light on the front tires. Normally, you just need to take those shock absorbers and suck that thing down a little tighter to the track.
We're riding with Danica Patrick in the 10. Remember, she was one of the drivers that came back to pit road and topped off. And Matt, she is back up in the top 10 of this 10 car.
And a lot of compliments from her spotter, Mark Robertson, a longtime spotter. In fact, he scored 2 championships with Tony Stewart back in the Joe Gibbs days. He is helping her work her way through traffic. Greg Zipadelli said the same thing to her when they hit pit road. They brought her back in the top off. The only comment that she really had about the car was that it was running a little bit warm, but not in the danger zone.
Thanks, Matt. She looks to be staying down against that yellow line and making good use of the draft. Patrick right now in 9th place.
You know, I used to do the rookie meetings a long time ago, and I would always tell rookies, the best when you've had a good day is when you walk out of the garage and nobody is saying anything bad about you.
As I've been watching this inside line with Tony Stewart, our current champion, in that 14 pushing Denny Hamlin. Remember, they were teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing. But I think the biggest thing, one of the big changes during the offseason, Darian Grubb, Tony Stewart's crew chief from last year, moved from Stewart Haas Racing to Joe Gibbs Racing. Now Denny Hamlin's crew chief this year.
Mike Wallace's car, aerodynamically challenged from that early accident, has gone to the garage. There's Darian Grubb atop the pit box in new colors for this year.
I mean, that was a lot like if Tom Coughlin pretty much left the Giants and went to another football team for this upcoming football season.
A little more 3 wide mid-pack here. From 8th place on back, Ambrose, the man in the middle, in the number 9. Now McMurray drops down in front of him and Almirola. And the pack shuffles again. What I like about this, Darrell, is nobody's driving away from anybody else. We saw Dale Jr. march to the front. drop back to hang out back, and a lot of people moving back and forth.
Let's see what Mikey sees here. He's kind of just sitting there in the catbird seat, I think, riding along. He sees all that pack in front of him. He knows he can draft up there to any of those guys anytime. I think a lot of these guys are playing cat and mouse right now. I don't think they want to show anybody what they can do. I think you're going to see some two-car drafts here at the end of this thing. They're going to try to work their way right to the front and blow by everybody.
David Stremme has taken his Toyota to the garage, but Stremme will be in the 500 based on his qualifying speed from Sunday. Halfway, next time by.
I know he's still got a long ways to go. I just believe the combination to watch is that 98 car, Michael McDowell, with his buddy, his friend, Trevor Bayne in that 21. You can see they're hooked right together through 3 and 4. We got a long way to go, but I think that's the combination to watch as far as drivers racing their way into the 500.
There they are behind the cat car of Jeff Burton on the outside. And right now, McDowell and Bayne are in the 2 transfer spots.
Most of the time, a driver's mentality is, I'll go with whoever can help me. I'll help them if they can help me. That's kind of the way it is when you get down to the end of the race.
Last time around, Michael McDowell in the 98.
Oh, boy.
A lot of air pressure there.
Man, there is, and it's getting under the, you see this lip right here. When that hood is bucking up and down like that right there, it'll work those hood pins out. That could be a big problem for him.
Seeing a little bit of water spit out there at the base of the right side of the windshield, running a little bit warm.
Halfway in the first race of the Gatorade Duel, Denny Hamlin leads them around Daytona.
Maybe you got a wire off. Maybe got a wire off.
35 laps complete. Only 1 caution flag so far. Lap 9, a 4-car pileup. 4 cars on track racing for the 2 transfer spots. Right now it's McDowell and Bayne. Can Waltrip or Robbie Gordon move up? Here are the cars behind the wall and out of this race. Most all of them will be in the Daytona 500, all except Mike Wallace have a way to get into the race on Sunday.
You know what makes me nervous about kind of where we are right now? It gives some of these guys way too much time to make a plan as to how they're going to win this thing or get into the race. Makes me a little nervous.
Well, speaking of time, the sand is running out of the hour.
I really like the strategy that I think Danica and a couple others have played. Come back down and topped up before we went back to green. That assures them that they can make it.
Well, and what that also does, Darrell, if we get into overtime or green-white checkered, it gives them a little more insurance.
Agree.
Denny Hamlin won his qualifying race here in Daytona in 2008. He has led most of the laps. Tony Stewart holding station in second. Harvick third. Ricky Stenhouse, the Nationwide Series champion, and Jack Roush's number 6. A car that was not expected to compete. Sponsorship from Ford at the last minute, and Roush holding one of those guaranteed top 35 spots for the first 5 races. Taps Stenhouse to fill the seat, and he's having a fine drive here.
I have to pat Jack Roush on the back. The confident, this kid was he was out of his Nationwide car. They parked him because he wrecked too much. Set him on the sidelines for a little while, let him kind of watch and kind of figure it all out, put him back in there, and he went out there and he won the championship. Now, this kid's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a quick learner, and I like this guy. I think he's a lot like Trevor Bayne. They got a great future ahead of them.
Yeah, this is only his second Sprint Cup Series start. He set in for Trevor Bayne at Charlotte last May, had a great qualifying run, ended up finishing 11th.
David Gilliland released from the care center after that crash in turn 1 on lap 9. Dick Berggren, how about our leader?
Well, Denny Hamlin's plan is to pit in approximately 5 laps. He asked Darian Grubb, his crew chief, if he could talk some other people into pitting at the same time so he's not a lone soldier after that pit stop. Grubb told him it's already taken care of.
I guess that other person would have to include the number 9 of Marcus Ambrose, who's not yet been to pit road. Right now, McDowell and Bain in the 2 transfer spots. Michael Waltrip 3 spots back of that. And right behind Michael, there is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt?
Marcos Ambrose was asking Todd Parrott, who do I need to get close to? He knows he's going to have to pit soon. And Todd told him that we are going to pit with the leader, Denny Hamlin. So that's who they're going to be teaming up with here shortly. And meanwhile, talking about the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mike, we documented he came back down pit road and topped off with fuel. They were asking Junior how much throttle he is using. Junior simply said in the turns, half throttle. I'm riding around in 3/4 throttle, and when I want to really pull up and get up to the front, it's full throttle.
It's funny he said that because when we're in the car with him, I heard him backing off the gas. And I thought, well, his car must be handling bad. But he's trying to save a little fuel. And that's one of the unknowns with this fuel injection, Larry. We just really don't know how much fuel you can save.
You're learning every single lap.
Michael McDowell, for the second time in 3 years, trying to race his way into the Daytona 500.
Give me some fuel now, Michael. We need to save fuel. I don't know how to do that when we're wide open, never lifted, Gene. So you got to tell me what you want to do. I want you to save me some fuel. So if you got to lift a little here and there, let's do that.
That's a tall order. You're telling a man that's trying to race his way into the Daytona 500, you've got to save fuel at a track you run wide open.
Let me ask you something, Larry, and as a driver. Do I want to look bad as a driver and not make the race? Or do I want to look good as a driver and the car runs out of gas?
Yeah, that's a box.
No.
That is a box.
I know what I'm going to do.
Listen to Michael Waltrip's engine as he gets closer there to Jamie Mack. Well, part of the magic of drafting is it doesn't matter if you're on the racetrack or the highway. If you're tucked up close behind somebody, you don't need to run as much throttle as the lead car to maintain that same speed.
You're right, Mike. And one thing you got to watch here now when these guys get up front here, get ready to make these pit stops, man, it's so easy to get run over from behind. You got to let the guys know you're coming. You got to get that hand up. You got to wave.
And that's happening right now. Here comes Denny Hamlin in the 11. He's hitting pit road as well as Ambrose in the 9.
Dick Berggren.
It's going to be a 2-tire change as well as fuel, and this is the same crew that pitted him last year. Oh, so many teams, new people over the wall, not this one. These guys are very experienced at doing what they're doing right now. Matt.
And Dick, they've called an audible at one point. They were just going to go with fuel only. Now they're going to go right side tires on the 9 machine. Solid stop, and he's away, waiting on his new teammate there, the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
The 9 car of Ambrose almost had to do the same thing as the 11. It's important those two drivers leave pit road together and try to hook up, but I still believe it's going to take a caution to get them back into this thing.
Yeah, about all they can really do is try to stay on the lead lap right now and hope for a late caution.
44 laps complete. Tony Stewart is the new leader with Hamlin's pit stop. Time by in the Gatorade Duel. We apologize for audio difficulties somewhere along our transmission path. I believe we have that fixed for you. Tony Stewart leads Kevin Harvick both in Chevys, then the Fords of Stenhouse and Almirola. The Chevy of Burton, the Dodge of Allmendinger are the top half dozen with McDowell and Waltrip right now in the 2 transfer spots to the 500. Steve Burns.
Mike, I'm going to update you on a few Chevrolet teams. It's really close, real close on gas for Kevin Harvick in the 29, Jeff Burton in the 31, and Tony Stewart in the 14. The teammates, Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick, about a lap short. The 14 about 3/4 of a lap short. They're trying to save fuel when they can. Matt?
Steve, an update on some other Chevrolets. The 10 of Danica Patrick, they are close. I just talked to Steve Letarte. They are close as well. Remember, those two cars both came back in the top off. And the one of Jamie McMurray, he is 3 to 4 laps short. His issue, he lost his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya earlier, so he's trying to find someone to pit with.
I'll tell you something I think is going to shape up here before it's over with. Michael and Junior, they'll work together because they kind of talked about it. And then McDowell and Bain, they've already worked out a little bit of deal to work together. So I think that's going to be the two-car tandems that are going to really try to go right at the end.
Right now, Michael Waltrip and Michael McDowell in the 2 transfer spots. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Waltrip have finished 1-2 in this race twice. And in Sprint Cup point races at Daytona and Talladega, a total of 4 1-2 finishes between them.
Well, we know in that 2001 Daytona 500, our first NASCAR on Fox broadcast, Michael Waltrip won the 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished second.
So who will have to pit and when? That becomes the big question right now.
Yeah, the pack's catching up with Hamlin and the 9 car there, but they're gaining about 3/4 of a second a lap on those guys as they chase them back down.
Now that would not have happened a year ago because the 2-car tandem, the 2-driver tandem, was faster than the pack. But the rules package has changed in an effort not to prevent tandem racing, but let's say create a disincentive for it.
Yeah, and they've had to make the switch a couple of times. That slows them down at least another second. So they're sitting out there, like I said, hoping for a caution.
10 laps to go.
You know, Michael Waltrip in that 40, he has latched on to this group that's in single file right now. And slowly but surely, Michael McDowell in the 98, Trevor Bayne in the 21, they are losing touch with this group.
Yeah, if Bain's going to help McDowell, he better get up there and start doing it pretty quick. But I tell you, that's a sharp kid in that 21. He knows how to run this racetrack. I really am impressed with his drafting skills and how he thinks.
Well, the only other car trying to race in. There's one car
comes Michael's on pit road.
Down to pit road speed. Matt, what's up?
And he's one of those first cars to hit pit road to come in and top off, just needing a few seconds of fuel. They clean off the grill, and he is away for the 2-time winner of the 500.
Boy, he really needed somebody to stop with him, but I guess that's where you find out where your friends are, right there, among those who need fuel and those who don't. 9 to go.
Well, if he gets some other drivers in that lead pack that peel off here shortly, they should come together once they've left pit road.
As much as you want to help somebody, you just can't jeopardize your own finish trying to work with somebody. Even though, for Michael, it's a life or death. He gets in or he doesn't, but he just can't take the chance.
That's right. He has to finish the race to make it in. So that puts McDowell and Bain.
Oh, Michael spun on the back.
And
Michael crashed down the back. Oh my gosh, what happened?
The caution is out.
With 8 laps to go.
That's a huge break for all of these drivers that needed fuel. A huge break for Denny Hamlin and Marcus Ambrose especially.
You know, I wonder if Michael cut a tire down or something after coming out of the pits.
He only took on fuel. He didn't change
tires, or he picked up debris or something. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here. He's down on the apron.
Keep taking their packs just out the end of pit road.
Whoa. When he came up on the racetrack, the thing just jumped around with him.
Darrell, did it look like maybe, again, we know he's desperate. He's trying to get back up to speed. Did he jump up on the apron too quick?
Well, I don't know about too quick, but that transition from the apron up on the racetrack, we know that's hard. I mean, that's hard to do. Just with picking up debris on his hot tires, he didn't change tires. The car just spun out.
Michael getting ready to climb out, telling the crew he is okay. Heartbroken, perhaps, but okay. Matt?
He told the team on the radio, Mike, that he was just trying to get up to speed as quickly as he could. He didn't want to get a penalty by NASCAR by going up above the 2 yellow lines too quickly. And he apologized. He felt bad, he said.
NASCAR requires you to drive around the apron through turns 1 and 2 and then blend in at the exit of turn 2 back up onto the racetrack.
I really think, Mike, part of the problem was, and I know Michael is just, I mean, he is so sorry, so bad, feels bad about what happened, but I think it was the debris that he would pick up on those hot tires, the rubber and the dirt and everything, and then when he gassed it to get up on the racetrack, the thing just spun around.
And from on board.
And that's probably down about where there is no safer barrier. And you can see what an impact that was and how he's snapped forward in the car.
And in addition to the cost of the damage, that's about a $240,000 hit for Michael Waltrip. That's the difference between starting this race and starting Sunday.
What's going to be about a 5-lap shootout. We now only have 3 of our go or go home drivers on the racetrack: McDowell, Bain, and Robbie Gordon.
Pit stops for those who need it. Ricky Stenhouse leads them down. Here's Dick.
After a very long debate, Trevor Bain will pit for 3 seconds worth of fuel, and that's it. Matt.
And McMurray needs only a few seconds fuel as well. Fuel only for him. He's away. Dale Earnhardt Jr., he topped off. Danica Patrick, 3 seconds of fuel for the 10 car.
Jeff Burton wins that race off pit road. And Dale Jr. gains a bunch of spots as we're under caution. 6 to go. 5 laps to go. We're under caution for Michael Waltrip's crash in the backstretch as he was trying to blend back up onto the racetrack after a pit stop. The car got away from him, went into the wall, and out of the race. Tony Stewart, your leader, Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Almirola, McMurray, Allmendinger, Keselowski, and Stenhouse. And right now, the race in positions are Trevor Bain and Michael McDowell. Robbie Gordon still with a chance to race his way into the 500.
Every race we cover has a wow moment in it. Ours is getting ready to happen.
One thing we need to clear up, just before that caution came out, the leaders, they had overtaken Denny Hamlin and Marcus Ambrose, put them a lap down. Marcus was in front of Denny Hamlin. Marcus Ambrose back on the lead lap by virtue of the free pass. Denny Hamlin 1 down.
So there's Ambrose at the tail end of the pack. And you see the 98, the black car of McDowell, and the black number 7 with that lightning type look on the front. That is Robbie Gordon. And those two, along with 21 Trevor Bain, trying to race their way in the final 4 laps of this race. Green flag back in the air. Tony Stewart tries to take off from Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton.
There'll be some slicing and dicing here once we get up to speed.
Stewart, Harvick, and Edwards on the bottom, trying to eke away, and that's not going to happen. Here comes Burton in the outside lane.
Getting a good push there from Allmendinger in a 22 car, pushing him right up there to the lead. Pushing, pushing, pushing.
That was the highlight to Jeff Burton's 2011. He won the dual race here a year ago at Daytona.
Three wide as one car breaks out to the outside. That is Eric Almirola with Ricky Stenhouse.
Yeah, he jumped out there. I thought he was going to be by himself, but all of a sudden a bunch of friends jumped up there behind him.
Yeah, that's the young guns up on the outside. They're high, they're rim riding, baby.
3 laps to go, Steve.
Pretty big gamble for Kevin Harvick. As I said, Mike, close on fuel. Shane Wilson, the new crew chief, wanted to bring him down. Kevin convinced him that he'd saved enough gas. Let's see if it works.
Jamie McMurray got knocked out of line and comes back up on the racetrack. Still side by side with Burton.
But you said it right. He got knocked down there.
Yeah, he did. His car doesn't look all that stable, even once he gets back up in line.
They come to the stripe, 2 to go. There's another look. Watch the one of McMurray. That was off Burton's front bumper. But he hung on to it.
And there goes Junior. And Junior just pushed Carl Edwards and he to the lead, but then he dropped in. He got by Carl Edwards in the 99. I think he was hoping to pick up Tony Stewart in the 14, but Carl closed the door. Now here comes the 14 and Stewart up the outside.
Fast freight on the outside track. Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, Jamie McMurray. On the outside, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Carl Edwards on the inside. White flag this time by.
That McMurray car was good here in the Bud Shootout the other night. He's right up there again today.
He'll be getting the white flag. A lot of drivers a little unsure. Can they make it the distance?
Burton slices top to bottom, passes 3 cars and lines up third for this final lap.
Tony Stewart sitting out there right now. That is not a good place to be. He's a setting duck. They're going to come by him like he put on the brakes.
Yeah, watch the run these drivers get that are lined up. Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. right there in the 88. Watch Burton.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, hard in the wall. And she's all right after a hard crash, and the caution flag is out.
The race is over. That's Tony Stewart will win the race. God, we got that camera in there with Danica and see she's fine.
Checkered flag. Tony Stewart leads Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Marcus Ambrose across the line. But they got stacked 4 wide coming out of turn number 2. Danica was on the inside, and when all that contact was made, she was the one that ended up going for the wild ride.
And she'd done such a nice job. I mean, we'd been watching her, keeping her nose clean. That's a very unfortunate event. See if we can see exactly what happened here as we look down the back
of the pack in the inside, and they're 4 wide across here, just about, as Allmendinger leads them way up the high side. Where is the contact?
Somebody's going to come down into her, I think.
Almirola.
Yeah, right there. He got on the bumper of it. Looked like McMurray's car, the one, turned him a little bit to the left. Thank God for safer barriers.
That was a hard lick. It's almost that car didn't even look like it slowed down as it was going across there.
I'm so glad that all these racetracks have put safer barriers where we never had them before, and here's a perfect example of why we need them everywhere.
So Danica Patrick is okay after this.
Bottom. There you go. Keep digging. 3 wide.
Goodness gracious.
Let's go on board.
Bottom. There you go. Keep digging. 3 wide.
Is that not? Did you see what she did with her hands?
Yeah, all that open wheel experience.
IndyCar, all that open wheel experience. She knew not to hold on to that steering wheel. That is amazing. I saw her do that here in the ARCA race a couple years ago.
If you hold on to the wheel there, you can break a wrist easily.
Yeah, but
when that wheel wrenches your hands.
Do you just have any idea when you're headed for that wall that fast that you got the time to think about letting go and put your hands up like that?
Goes to victory lane, his 3rd Gatorade Duel win at Daytona. Here is our touch of gray moment at race's end. The final caution. Watch the orange number 1 of Jamie McMurray edge down the track into Eric Almirola.
Right in there.
Who heads right into Danica Patrick.
Look how light that car gets in the back as it skips across there. That's how fast that thing was going.
You could see how much that safer barrier wall moved, and that's the good thing.
Watch this thing skipping across there. Bam! Folks, that's at 180 miles an hour.
Yeah, it didn't lose a lot of speed going across there.
No.
Down to victory lane, Gatorade victory lane, Steve Burns.
Mike, Tony Stewart just got unbuckled. Hans device off and helmet off. Well, Tony, it didn't take you long to get your first win with your new crew chief, Steve Addington. But I'm curious, how bittersweet is it? Danica took a big shot down on the backstretch for you to pull into victory lane, but to see her go through that.
We don't ever want to see us lose a car, and the good thing she's in the 500 still. That's the main thing. But we took care of business today with this Office Depot Mobile 1 Chevy, and had an awesome partner there with Kevin Harvick there. I thought I could get him pulled through there, but we both had a good run there, and he took real good care of us. We couldn't have done that without Kevin.
I'm curious how close you were on gas. I was asking guys in the pits, and they're like, what?
I think we were all right. I mean, we almost saved a full lap when the caution came out there at the end, so I don't think we were that close, really. I think we were going to be all right as long as we didn't get a green-white checkered.
Congratulations on the win, Tony. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
And catching up with another driver who has raced his way into the Daytona 500, Robbie Gordon. Early on, smoke from the car. Can you describe just how big of a turnaround this is for you and your team?
Well, the motor's been running hot the whole time, and we were a little concerned about the oil, so I couldn't even run in a pack more than 10 or 15 laps. So going to have to do everything I can to work a deal with Penske to see if we can get a Penske motor for the 500. But this is the same car that we led Talladega with, and once we get in the pack, we're fine. The car's good. So I'm happy to make the Daytona 500, happy for Mapei, happy for Menards, obviously happy for Speed Energy, and not only that, all my guys that just bust their butts week in and week out to get us here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mike?
Thanks, Matt. Robbie used the first caution flag. He pitted and got rid of that tire rub and went on to make the 500.
Looking at Tony Stewart, that is his 17th career win at Daytona International Speedway. Everything he's ever driven here, but still looking for that first Daytona 500 win.
What I like is he was willing to make changes in the offseason. Everybody said, why? Hello.
Danica Patrick checked and released from the infield care center. Let's meet the other man who's just transferred into the 500. Matt?
An impressive performance by Michael McDowell. Can you describe how nervous you were and also the relief? You are in the Great American Race.
Yeah, first and foremost, just want to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, because, we didn't have speed on Sunday to get in, and, to get this K-Love Radio Curb records. I want to thank Mike Curb and Kerry Akajanian and drive the 98 for Phil Parsons, and to have this Ford Doug Yates Roush power pan underneath the hood, I just can't say enough. And all my friends, man, I just can't.
You had some help from the 21, your buddy.
Yeah, I owe him big. There's something special on there that we can't break, and so it's just cool to see when we can work together what you can accomplish for the glory of God.
McDrivers in the Daytona 500.
Danica Patrick has emerged from the care center. It looked like a vicious hit. What was it like from behind the steering wheel?
Happened really quick. I guess you can always imagine that when it gets down to the end of the race, everybody's, everyone's on each other's doors really close, and that's just kind of what happens at the end of the race. So, unfortunately, I was part of it. So, I felt like I was having at least a solid race. I worked my way up there at the beginning a little bit and hung around in the front group for a while. I don't know, felt like it kind of slowed down. I was dragging the brake quite a bit just to keep with the pack and not run up to him too quickly. So I don't know if that had any effect, but we were just looking to finish, to be honest. So unfortunately that was not the case, and it was I don't know, it felt pretty big, so I don't know what it looked like.
Before the crash, did you feel comfortable racing in the pack?
Yeah, no, I felt good. I felt comfortable, and it was just a matter of getting into the right line with the right people and in the fast lane, and it was hard to get past that sort of mid-pack range. I felt like if I could have gotten up there, it would have been better, but of course it would be. Going up front is always better, but I feel I'm just bummed out. It's like 2 corners to go, and we go to Eddie Cars in a ball, so maybe the backup car will be faster.
There you go.
There we go.
Danica will start in the back of the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
Good bit of optimism there. Patrick finishes 16th. Here are our Napa race results. Tony Stewart gets his 3rd dual win, 13th Speed Weeks win, tying Darrell for 2nd on the all-time list. Junior, Ambrose, Edwards, Burton the top 5. McDowell races in. Harvick, Allmendinger, Robbie Gordon races in, and McMurray. Stenhouse in 11th. Bain, they're in the race. Keselowski, Reagan, Almirola, Patrick in 16th. Hamlin ends up a lap down. Michael Waltrip misses. David Stremme falls back on his speed. Terry Labonte champions provisional. So, Here's who's locked into the 500. Now, Labonte still could end up with his speed getting him in, opening up the provisional spot for Bill Elliott. But we do know that these 5 drivers now know they will be in the Daytona 500. The lineup getting ready for race 2. Ouch.
It's the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Race number 1 just wrapping up. Tony Stewart, a familiar face in Daytona's victory lane, although he's never won the Great American Race. We also saw cars being crashed and hopes being crushed. 2 drivers, Michael McDowell and Robbie Gordon, racing their way into the Daytona 500. And speaking of cars being crushed, Jeff Hammond.
Yeah, right here, riding along with Danica Patrick, and she's had a really solid race all afternoon, and you see her very comfortable inside that number 10 car. Looked like she was going to have a really good finish, but right there at the end, I mean, everything just kind of went the wrong way, and it was no fault of hers, but the end result was a pretty horrific crash. You see her right here, and watch, folks, right there at the end, she takes her hands off the wheel, hits that inside safer wall. I've not ever seen that out of any other driver. I mean, that's pretty impressive right there.
Yeah, you commented on that right when you saw it. You said, I haven't seen that before. And this is actually Kevin Hamlin saying smart move by Danica to let go of the wheel. You hit like that at that angle, and the wheel whipping around can actually break your wrist.
I think that's something, again, she had to pick up from open wheel, and she brought to NASCAR. And again, I was very impressed with that reaction right there.
And as you said, no fault of her own. She talked about her car now being wrapped up into a ball, if you will. But yeah, just one of the downsides of racing here at Daytona. Steve Burns caught up with a driver.
With Kenny Wallace and his high school sweetheart and wife, Kim. And Kenny's been racing down here in Florida since January 31st in his dirt modified car. But Kenny, this is it. This is what's on the line, the Daytona 500. What are your emotions like right now, and what's your game plan?
Well, I'm really focused right now. You know, this is the way I've always got in the Daytona 500, is race my way in. And, you know, I said earlier that it would be hard to take a gift, Trevor Bayne making it in. So on the white flag lap, he was in, and then he wasn't in. So I was prepared for that. I just, for some reason, I felt it. And here we go, and do the very best I can.
All right, best of luck, Kenny.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
If Trevor Bayne had raced his way in, Kenny Wallace would be feeling a lot more relaxed. He would be in the Daytona 500. He will now race in dual race number 2 and will have to race his way in. That race is coming up next on Speed. Speed's coverage of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona is brought to you by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. By Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Follow Sunoco Racing on Facebook. By Toyota, moving forward. And by Touch of Gray. Get the best of both worlds. This Friday, it's the return of Car Warriors, the only show where 2 teams of mechanics go head-to-head in a 48-hour race to build the ultimate ride. Car Warriors returns Friday following Truck Series Racing right here on Speed. And if you are a fan of Car Warriors, you surely recognize this guy right here, Jimmy Shine. And you are not just the host, you're the judge this season on Car Warriors.
Yeah, that's right. We changed the format this season. Instead of having 3 judges, I'm actually just me. Just me. I get to be there for the duration of the build, work with the guys. It's really good, really good.
You know, Jimmy, in understanding how your role is kind of changing and evolving, you actually help the guys sometimes when they get stuck on something, they run chase parts, get ideas, whatever you can do to kind of keep this thing rolling.
Right. Well, you know, we all work together. I've got 2 lead techs that I work directly with, and they work directly with each team. So I work with Ray McClelland and Brad Fanshaw, and they assist the teams. I can't really put too much into it because then, of course, it'll affect my judging.
Yeah.
The guys are there. It is a competition. They're there to show me what they can do or can't do.
Speaking of competition, you were out there watching dual race number 1. What do you think of what you've seen at Daytona?
I tell you what, this is my first time to Daytona. I've always wanted to come here, and I've seen it on television, but until I'm actually here to see those cars go by, just the sound, the smell, the atmosphere, the people, everything, you know, combined. It's just really impressive. It's good to be here.
I think we got a couple of candidates maybe for your show right there, especially Danica's car. Could y'all maybe effective repair on that car maybe?
I think we could help.
Yeah.
Well, I heard the show being sold as, if you want to see grown men cry, tune into Car Warriors, because they're put under the ultimate pressure boiler. It's a pressure boiler in NASCAR, but 48 hours, that's all you give them to build a hot rod.
And that's really tough. I mean, there's no question these guys can do it, but can they do it in 48 hours? That's the challenge.
Episode 3 is the one I'm watching. I'm a 72 Chevelle guy, so I'm watching 3
well,
for sure.
You're going to see the premiere right after the truck race on Friday. We don't even have to tell you what time, because you'll already be watching the truck race. Just keep your television right there on speed, and you'll see the premiere of Car Warriors. Gatorade Duel race number 2 coming up next. Back at Daytona, drivers who are about to race in dual race number 2 getting ready for their chance to see what their cars can do. Let's go ahead and show you what happened in race number 1. And Jeff Hammond, it was a wild one right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat right here, we see Michael McDowell. He gets in the back of David Gilliland, who turns him up in the outside wall, collecting the 42 car Juan Pablo Montoya, as well as Paul Menard, ending their day as far as this race is concerned, but they at least running the 500.
Another driver trying to race his way in, Michael Waltrip, and complete deflation. He came on the radio, Michael Waltrip, apologizing to his team, saying over and over how sorry he was. That was his hope sort of right there.
Here's one of the biggest hits of the whole first duel right there. The number 10 car, Danica Patrick, hard to the inside safer wall. Again, the car is just totally destroyed, but fortunately, she's able to walk away.
And we said that was no fault of her own. Tony Stewart goes on to win dual race number 1. Tony Stewart, a multiple-time winner here at Daytona, but he's never won the Great American Race. Now we spin forward to dual race number 2. Casey Kane, he's already had an interesting speed week. So he went to a backup car in practice. Martin Truex, he will race in dual race number 2. All of these guys we know, they were watching that race number 1. Do you think they learned anything, Jeff?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody goes to school whenever you're having an opportunity to see what the competition is bringing to the table, especially somebody like Ryan Newman. You know, his teammate and owner wound up winning that first one, so I'm sure he collected a lot of data.
Well, Carl Edwards is on the pole for Sunday's Great American Race. Alongside of him will be his teammate, Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle caught up with Matt Yoakum.
When you look at Greg Biffle's racing resume, he's got a July win here at Daytona. Would love to get a 500, and all starts today trying to lock in the spot of where you're going to roll off for Sunday's race. You watch the first duel. What was the biggest thing you learned?
Biggest thing I learned, it looks like, a little calmer than it was in the shootout. So I'm happy to see that. And, just being in the right place at the right time. It looked like a lot of fun up there dicing at the end. I just hope to keep my car going straight. Not like maybe Danica, got bumped there at the end. That looked like a bad wreck, but glad to see she's okay. Just want to keep this car in good shape. Start that 3 and 4 Fusion on the front row for the 500.
Biff, he will roll off from the front row in duel number 2.
The first time Jeff Gordon ever came to Daytona to run one of these duels was 1993, and he won it. How about today?
We've got a great shot at winning it again today. What a race car and a race team that we've brought here to Daytona. A lot of hard work obviously goes into these cars and with every team, but our Drive to In Hunger Chevrolet has been really, really strong, and so I'm excited. Can't wait to get it all started. That was an interesting first race. Fuel mileage was starting to play a role, then the late wreck, and that battle and how guys got hooked up with one another to push to see who's going to win it. So, I think we learned a little bit by watching, and we'll learn a lot more once we get out there for ourselves.
Good luck with it. Thank you.
Well, Jimmy, quite simply, what's the game plan in this dual race today?
Just go out and run hard. I mean, everybody knows that you don't want to take any chances here to hurt your primary car, but it is a race, and there's stuff to learn. We do have a great backup car, although we don't want to use it, and I sound like all the other guys. I want to go out and find that balance of racing real hard and try to win this thing and then take care of my car.
Thank you. Good luck.
Yep.
Did I hear Greg Biffle say the race was calm? There is nothing calm about racing at Daytona.
Absolutely not.
These drivers are getting ready for their shot. Some drivers have their ticket in hand but are now scrambling to find out where their seat will be. You will see it all unfold next on Speed.
Come down, come down, come down, come right on you. Go low, go low, go low.
You could just feel that one start to come.
Get down to the apron. Let's go. Get through there. Good job.
There is nothing slow or boring about Speed Weeks at Daytona. Always something to see and do. Kyle Busch getting ready to race in dual race number 2. And we already saw from race number 1 who is now locked into the Daytona 500. Michael McDowell and Robbie Gordon racing their way in. Trevor Bayne and David Stremme along with Terry Labonte locked in. Terry Labonte with the past champion provisional.
Yeah, that's the thing is right now these guys know they can start enjoying what's going on and having an opportunity to start planning on the 500 and enjoying what's going to happen come Sunday.
And you called this earlier NASCAR's ultimate game of musical chairs. There's just not enough seats for everybody.
Not enough seats. And the thing is that we spin this thing forward toward the next and final episode as far as the second duel is concerned. Simple math, Krista. 6 for 2. That means there's 6 drivers looking for 2 spots. Somebody's going to be left out in the cold.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our DirecTV format for this race, what you'll see unfold here on Speed. Gatorade Duel race number 2, the 2 highest finishers in this race, not yet qualified. Those are the 2 of those 6 that you mentioned who are going to make the Daytona 500. Who do you like? Who do you think has a good shot?
You know, right now, you got to think that I think he's motivated. I think Kenny Wallace is going to race his way into this race. The next deal is kind of trying to figure out the battle maybe between Joe Nemechek, who's a great super speedway racer, and a former champion, Bill Elliott. I mean, and the thing is, they're teammates. They're racing each other. Who's going to wind up getting in the race?
And we saw aggression right off the bat with Michael McDowell early in that race. He was able to make his way into the Daytona 500. Robbie Gordon, he was smoking early and still made it in. So you never know what can happen. We will go racing next on Speed. There is nothing like the Daytona 500. The Speed Social Garage is your all-access pass to Speed Weeks. Go to speed.com now and click on the Social Garage to join the conversation with Speed personalities, drivers like Casey Mears, there he is with his little daughter, and industry experts. Everyone these days is on Twitter. Michael Waltrip actually was able to get to his phone right after that deflating wreck. He said, as my mama would say, you will live. I'm glad I got friends. I know it was heartbreaking for Michael Waltrip in that race. Matt Yoakum has caught up with the driver.
And Kurt Busch spends a lot of time on Twitter as well. Your teammate almost from last year, you and Regan Smith worked a lot together. He's a row behind you. Do you try to team up again for this duel, or is it just pretty much every man for himself and just try to learn?
Well, we want to team up like we did last year, but the rules are a little different. And you can get the short run speed, but overall the draft is a bigger player this year. Guys were real patient in that first race once it settled in. So we'll see how we do. We got the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. We want to put her in a good spot for the Daytona 500.
And he is always stout in the 500. 3 times he has finished second. Krista?
Kurt Busch, a great restrictor plate racer. Greg Biffle will start on the pole for this dual race number 2. We have seen the Fords be very fast. Who will make it into the show? Kenny Wallace is going to race his heart out next on Speed. The race for a driver locked in is one of cautious aggression. Learn enough for the 500, but don't tear up your race car. Tony Stewart, already a winner. He won dual race number 1. The race for a driver on the outside, a race within his own mind. When should I make my move? 24 drivers have been patiently waiting for their turn. Drivers like Elliott Sadler and 5-time series champion Jimmy Johnson. Their Gatorade Duel race starts right now. We return downstairs trackside for the second race command.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back lead category manager for Harris Teeter, Steve Kravitz, as he delivers the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Different agendas and priorities to learn, protect, win, survive. What did we learn from race number 1 and what will unfold in race number 2? Let's head upstairs and get the thoughts of Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip.
Well, thanks, Krista. Traditionally, if the first race is a wild one, the second one, things calm down. If the first race is relatively tame, the second duel gets really wild. Darrell, have we seen the wild one yet?
I don't know. I think it's second verse, same as the first, to tell you the truth. I think the agenda is the same for everybody in this race. Guys that are in, let's gather information. Let's work on our fuel mileage, because that was a factor in the first one. Let's stay out of trouble and bring this thing home so we can tweak on it a little bit more for the 500. Let's don't come in on a rollback. That isn't going to do any of us any good.
Larry, going into race 1, the drivers who were not yet in the 500 had a lot of different possibilities. Some had, like Terry Labonte, had as many as 3 different ways to make the race. But now that picture becomes a lot clearer for the drivers trying to race in race 2.
Yeah, there's not a lot of what if. The what if is go up there and do exactly what Michael McDowell and Robbie Gordon did in that first dual race, get toward the front. But the one thing that I did learn from that first dual race, now that it's in the book, is the fact you probably don't want to pass up an opportunity to come to pit road early and at least get fuel. Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, led almost half of that first dual race. Because they stayed out, they were forced to make a green flag pit stop and finish way back in the pack.
And Robbie Gordon said never give up, and ended up in the Daytona 500 when early in the race it looked like he might not make it. Ready to race in Daytona in just a minute.
Hey, boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. Still running with the big dogs now. Running like a shiny crowd. This is what the sweating thing was all about. So get up, go. Running with the big dogs now. And the running like a shiny crowd. This is what the sweating thing was all about.
Race 2 of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona set to go here at Daytona International Speedway, live on Speed. And for the second time, Greg Biffle will lead them to the flag, as he did in 2004 when he won the pole. Here's your Gatorade starting grid. Biffle and Casey Mears in Fords on the front row. Jeff Gordon, 5 wins in the duels, with Martin Truex in row number 2, a Chevy and a Toyota. Mark Martin will be in his 28th Daytona 500, and Jimmy Johnson, a dual winner in 2010. Matt Kenseth in a Ford, Ryan Newman in a Chevrolet, both past 500 champs. Joey Logano's Toyota, and Casey Kane, who got a dual win 2 years ago. Tony Raines in a Ford, Kyle Busch in a Toyota, who won his duel in 2009. Kenny Wallace trying to race his way in, as is Dave Blaney. They share the 7th row. Kurt Busch, a dual winner last year, and Elliott Sadler has won twice on Thursday of Speed Week. Row 9, Joe Nemechek trying to race in, and Regan Smith, the Darlington winner last year. Bobby Labonte, dual winner in 99, and Bill Elliott, who's won the duel 4 times, he has to race in. David Rudiman is in the show Sunday. Robert Richardson Jr. trying to race his Toyota into the 500, as is J.J. Yaley in a Toyota, and Clint Boyer, due to a height infraction in qualifying, will start his Toyota last. Saturday night, a performance that certainly made my plays of the week. Kyle Busch, lose it, catch it, lose it, catch it, throw it away, bring it back, and then bring it all the way to victory lane after truly a wild night.
You know, Mike, first time lucky, second time really good. Let's see if we can get that young man on our radio here. Kyle Busch, DW Speed Booth, buddy. Got a copy?
Yeah, man, right here. What's up, DW?
Man, we just watched some of your handiwork from Saturday night. What do you think might happen out here today?
I hope we don't need too much left of that. That was certainly for entertainment purposes only. We're here to race today, so hopefully we can keep this M&M's Camry in one piece and have a good, solid Daytona duel. We'd like to win the thing, sure, but we also know where the bigger prize lies, and that's keeping this race car for Sunday.
So we can expect you to be a little conservative today, right?
Well, I wouldn't say anything wasn't conservative on Saturday night either. It just kind of turned into being a wild one. You know, a lot of guys going for everything it was worth, and no points on the line, and a special race car for that race. So today it was a little bit tamer, it seemed like, in the first duel, and hoping for something more of the same here right now.
10-4, bud. You're the man. Put on a show.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
He'll be coming from 10th place on the starting grid. Let's get down to pit road for late breaking stories. Dick Berggren.
Jimmy Johnson has had to start these 150s from the back in 3 of the last 4 years. Engine changes, backup cars. Today he will start 6th, despite some issues that he had in technical inspection. The strategy is simple. Go to the front and win this thing. Steve Burns.
Casey Kane's been waiting patiently, Dick, 18 months to drive for Hendrick Motorsports. He's off to a bit of a rough start. He had some cleanup meniscus surgery on his left knee before he came down here yesterday in second practice, tore up his race car. Kenny Francis said they've gone to the backup car, which they really don't know that much about. Mark Martin drove it some last year, but this race is really just to get their feet wet with this race car. Matt?
Steve, what a year it's been for Regan Smith. A year ago, he finished 7th in the Daytona 500, won Darlington, and then got married in the offseason. Enters this season with more confidence going into a season than he ever has had before. Very fast race car, starts mid-pack. He told me he learned a lot from the duel number 1 that he'll use on Sunday in the 500. The biggest thing he wants to work on during this duel is just timing. See how the packs form and how late they form and when you have to try to make your move. Mike?
Thanks, Matt. Let's, as Larry said, the picture now becomes clearer for the go or go home drivers in this second duel. Tony Raines starts his number 26 Ford in 11th. Now Raines is in the 500 on speed. He can get a better starting spot by racing in. But remember, Front Row Motorsports has already wrecked one car, and that takes away one of their only 2 backups. So Raines will start 11th. Dave Blaney in the 36. Has to race his way in. All of the speed spots above him are taken. Joe Nemechek, Kenny Wallace that is. Kenny Wallace could get in on speed if Tony Raines races in. Otherwise, Wallace has to be one of the first 2 in this group to finish. Joe Nemechek must race in. No speed spot available for him. Alongside him there, Robert Richardson, who also must race into the show. No speed spot for him. Now Bill Elliott is in the 97. And curiously, if Raines and Wallace race in, Labonte's in on speed. And Elliott could get the past champions provisional. Otherwise, he and J.J. Yaley in the 49 have to race their way into the 500.
Looks like to me, Tony Raines, he does not want to jeopardize this race car for the Daytona 500. He has dropped to the rear of this field as well.
Like race number 1, will go 60 laps, 150 miles. And a pit stop, which it looked, Larry, like in race 1, maybe some drivers made that initial stop too soon and had to rethink it?
Well, I still don't think you pass up an opportunity because several of those drivers, like Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, they did come back in at the tail end of that caution and topped off. It's hard to pass up an opportunity in this short of a race to get that thing full of fuel in the caution.
Warm and partly cloudy here in Daytona Beach, with a pretty good strong breeze today. 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds coming up from Orlando, and that's about as windy as it's been all week here. 84 degrees as we get ready to race. Greg Biffle, second front row start in the 500. Will bring them down for the dual race for the second time. He and Casey Mears. Green flag, 60 laps. Looks a lot like a pace lap, but they're building speed toward 190 miles plus per hour.
I think we're going to see tandem racing. We'll see a little bit more of it in this race because there are a lot of teammates in this race that may want to elect to work together just for a little experiment for Sunday.
They are not bashful. They are 3 wide, 4 deep coming through turn 4 to complete lap 1.
Biffle and Mears leading Martin Truex, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, and Kyle Busch.
You know, Larry, if you're gonna race, you got to make up your mind. I'm going to race. I'm going to run as hard as I can go, and whatever happens, happens. If you're not going to race, do like Tony Raines did. Fall to the back.
Now again at the top, look at Dave Blaney and Kenny Wallace. Their positions are in green. That means right now they're in those 2 transfer spots. The drivers trying to race their way in will be shown with their positions in red, beginning with J.J. Yaley in 17.
You know, right now, all of those scenarios that you read off at the beginning of this race, no driver is thinking about any of that. And what will happen is he gets down there at the end, a crew chief will start explaining that to his driver, and finally the driver will say, maybe if I just pass everybody, we'll be okay.
Right. Run hard. Get what you can get.
Get what I can.
You know, as I see Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car on the outside, Darrell, we watched him in the 2 practice sessions yesterday with his car. This is the first time he's been in the draft. All of their runs, even yesterday, was single car runs, just A, B, and changes.
Dave Blaney in 10th, Kenny Wallace in 16th on the transfer spots right now.
Boy, it looked like Matt Kenseth's up in that yellow car coming off 4 there. He had to check up a little bit, and that backed that outside lineup big time. Getting a nice push back to the front with Jimmy Johnson right there in the 48 on the 17 of Kenseth. Look like they got a lot of steam going off into 1. You just got to stay to the right of that rear bumper, man. You just got to stay over on that right side. The left side on these cars is so sensitive. You can spin out on the straightaway.
Excuse me. Logano went to the top. Ryan Newman behind him went to the bottom.
You know, as I look at Casey Mears in that 13 car, you think about he and his race team. That's a team that missed the 500 last year. They worked hard during the season, got in the top 35, made the swap to Ford. They come to Daytona for Speed Weeks, qualify 5th, still up there at the front.
Yeah, he and his crew chief, Booty Barker, I think they have a lot to prove. I think they want to prove they're a good race team. They've obviously got a great race car down here. I'm pretty sure they're going to run as hard as they can.
Kenseth and Johnson forged to the front and now drop to the inside lane. They are out front. Dick Berggren.
Kenny Wallace has just radioed his crew and said he is wide open and can't keep up.
Wallace is 17. Blaney and Nemechek in the 87 are in the transfer spots. That's Wallace in that silver and green 09.
But I think we still have to stress a long race, long way to go. You still got to make a pit stop, just like Robbie Gordon in that first race. Right. Don't give it up.
You don't count anybody out right now, except J.J. Yaley is in trouble.
Yeah, he's
down on the apron.
He's coasting. His engine's obviously off and got a problem.
The second generation sprint car driver from Phoenix. Had some strong runs last season in the Sprint Cup Series.
But Mike, that's Kenny Wallace at the back of this pack. Sometime when you're right there, you're kind of in a hole almost. I bet if he gets that car up in there amongst other cars, he'd be surprised how good he can run.
Seeing a couple of the Joe Gibbs drivers, Joey Logano in the 20, Kyle Busch in the 18. We talked to him on the pace laps, starting to work the high line.
6 laps complete. Kenseth remains the race leader from Johnson and Biffle.
These guys are like any athlete. They're saying, yeah, I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to take any chances. That's for about 5 laps. And then that's all out the window, and it's who can beat who.
These early laps look like more pack racing, less bump drafting than we saw in the first 7 laps of race 1.
Yeah, we saw Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth do some bump drafting to get to the front, but now as we're riding with Jimmy Johnson, it's just your conventional draft.
I think that's one of the things, Larry, these guys are really working on. Trail braking, riding the brake a little bit to stay off the guy in front of them, especially that left rear, and then playing with this fuel injection with the throttle and figuring out if, you know, when I ease out the throttle and get back in it, what kind of response am I getting? I think there's a lot of things that these drivers are really working through in these qualifying races.
That yellow car top of the screen in the outside lane, Dave Blaney. Blaney made it into the top 35 in owner points at the end of 2011. But his team owner, Tommy Baldwin, made a deal with Stuart Haas to assign those points and that so-called golden ticket that gets you into the first 5 races to Danica Patrick's team. So here's Blaney having to prove himself once again and race his way into the 500. And so far, these first 7 laps, he has been the first car not yet qualified in the running order, currently 8th.
But he has a friend, Elliott Sadler, in that 33 car. That's the only Richard Childress racing car in this race. But Dave Blaney, Tommy Baldwin, the 36 car, they get their cars, their engines from Richard Childress.
Blaney was hired last year, Mike, to get that car in the top 35. That's what he was hired to do. He did. This year, he's hired to get it back in the top 35.
Now Sadler's locked in, so too Regan Smith. A little puff from Regan's car from the overflow from the cooling system that exits up onto the right side of the windshield there. Just a little bit.
Listen, it's hot out there. It's 84 degrees.
Blaney in 9th, Nemechek in 14th. Driving his own car with little sponsorship and a small crew. Joe Nemechek is once again trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. Tomorrow, the trucks tote the load under the lights in Daytona. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series kicks off its season with what is traditionally the wildest race of speed weeks. And with what we've seen so far, that's going to have to be pretty wild. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, live on Speed.
Well, Larry, he did it. Kyle pushed Joey right to the lead, and then he got right off of him, probably to cool the engine down a little bit.
Yeah, it took them several laps. They just kept inching their way up there.
13 laps complete. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, 2 Toyotas out front of Matt Kenseth's Ford, and the Chevrolets of Jimmy Johnson, Dave Blaney, and Elliott Sadler.
The thing about the Toyotas is kind of interesting. It didn't qualify that good, but when we were down here testing, they were bad fast in draft practice. We saw that Saturday night with Kyle in the Bud shootout. Even with a car that wasn't in the best of shape, he's still able to win that race. Here they're pushed each other right to the lead.
Starting to see the same thing for him in the second lane right now with Dave Blaney in the 36. We talked about he and Elliott Sadler. They're working their way to the front.
2 more cars have gone to the garage. David Rudeman, who is locked into the 500 on owner points, and Tony Raines, who was the second fastest car not yet qualified on the speed chart Sunday in qualifying. So that means all 3 of those fastest cars, Baines, Raines, and Stremme, get into the race on their speed. It means now Kenny Wallace's only option is to race in, along with Blaney, Nemechek, Richardson, and Yaley is out of the race.
As we watch these 2 cars, Blaney and Sadler there, you see how far to the right you have to get any air in the radiator now. NASCAR moved that opening where that you got to get that car way out there. That's what hurts the 2-car tandem as much as anything. You got to get so far to the right you can't pick up max speed.
Mike, you mentioned Kenny Wallace, and Darrell has pointed out several times that as long as you can find speed in your race car regardless, Kenny Wallace is the only driver so far to run over 200 miles an hour in this race.
You're riding with Wallace. He's at 16th. And Elliott Sadler in the 33, did he get against the wall when he went way high in turn 1?
Oh, I think it was a combination of things. Blaney in front of him and Gordon right under him, and it got him loose and shot him up the hill. That's a product of this lower spoiler that we got down here this year. Cars get in the right spot, it makes them wicked loose.
Blaney drops to 6th, having lost his wingman, but still has a pretty good cushion on Joe Nemechek in 14th. They're in the transfer spots. Kenny Wallace 2 spots away, and Bill Elliott in 20th. Richardson 21st.
We've reached a point of this race now, Mike. Should we get a caution, all the drivers would come to pit road and there would be no issues on making it to the end. We've crossed that window now.
Matt Kenseth giving a boost to Kyle Busch. Steve?
Mike, an update on Ryan Newman in the 39. His teammate Tony Stewart won the first race. On the other hand, Ryan says, there's nothing I can do. I'm wide open, but I can't go anywhere. This is frustrating.
I'll tell you what's frustrating is that Joey Logano is doing a good job of keeping Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth behind him, but they're getting a little bit impatient. I think they're going to be able to make a pass here.
Here they go to the outside. Busch, Kenseth, and Jimmy Johnson, then Blaney to the outside, leaving Logano on the bottom. Now Logano's going to get a little help from behind. Midway in the backstretch from Biffle in the 16. And Martin Truex in the 56. Mark Martin, Truex's teammate, in the 55.
Both those drivers, they've been fast the entire speed weeks. Martin Truex and Mark Martin driving for Michael Waltrip Racing.
I think 2 guys that like to get hooked up if they could is Jimmy Johnson, 48 there in the 3rd car back, and Jeff Gordon right behind Blaney in the 24 car. If they could get together, they might be able to work together and get to the front.
18 laps down, Blaney in 5th. Nemechek and Kenny Wallace fight side by side for the bubble spot.
And we talked about Casey Kane at the top of the show in that backup car, said they didn't know a whole lot about this car, started at the tail in the field. He's about to crack the top 10. We're riding here in the Farmers Insurance Chevrolet. He's just back there in 11th.
Yeah, and Larry, every car, even though they're built alike, every one of them have a little different personality. Takes you a few laps to get comfortable in the car, kind of know what it's going to, how it's going to steer, how it's going to drive. I think that's what Casey was doing, getting comfortable in the car before he makes a move. And we see here Kurt Busch in the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. He's doing a good job of hanging in there right now, too, in James Finch's car.
He was puffing a little bit of water out the overflow there, and Busch currently is 16th. Kenny Wallace trying to work Joe Nemechek there, 13th and 14th overall, but only have eyes for each other because the bubble is Nemechek, and Kenny is one spot away.
I love what Kenny Wallace has done this Speed Weeks. Of course, he's running the NNS race. He's trying to qualify for the 500, but he's been running dirt races every night and winning. He said, I'd rather be doing that than sitting in my motorhome thinking about trying to make this 500.
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking, I can tell you.
When he's not doing that, he's got a microphone in his hand. Blaney and Nemechek in. Wallace, Bill Elliott, and Richardson on the outside looking in. 40 laps to go in the second race of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona presented by Gatorade. Gatorade knows it all begins within. Win from within. And brought to you by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. 1-800-DirecTV. And by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Goodyear, more driven. They've been riding around at 190 plus miles an hour until one lap ago when teammates Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth hooked up, drove to the front, and Biffle cut down to the low side, and it was see you later, Matt. Biffle is the leader, and Kenseth is relegated to leader of the outside lane some distance back.
Yes, all those bleep, bleep, bleeps you heard, that was Matt Kenseth talking about his teammate, I'm pretty sure.
Two of the Hendrick Chevrolet drivers have found each other, Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon in 11th and 12th places. Steve?
And Mike, the news not especially good for Jeff Gordon. He's telling his team, Alan Gustafson, the crew chief, I just can't push anyone because the car is running way too hot.
I just think the practice conditions that we had and what we've got today, we talked about it, well over 80 degrees. It's caught a lot of these drivers off guard.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out there. And then I wonder what was wrong with Jeff, because it's not unusual to see him ride around about mid-pack or right about where he is now. You know, remember in the Bud Shootout, can't drive the car. The shocks are no good. The car won't stay hot.
Our buddy Kenny Wallace in that 09 right now, he's riding behind Casey Mears in the 13, but they are losing touch with the lead pack. You can see the distance, and it's growing as it's almost a half of a straightaway there.
Well, that's one thing about, Kenny said, I can barely keep up. If you make one bad move, one mistake, and you lose that pack, that's what will happen to you.
They have fallen 3.5 seconds behind the leaders. Mears is in the race. Wallace is one spot away. Blaney in 11th, Nemechek in 15th. Are the two transfer cars right now as Kyle Busch with his Joe Gibbs Toyota teammate Joey Logano come back to the front.
Boy, this 23 car, they're going to catch him in exactly the wrong place. Somebody's going to have to give a little bit here.
Richardson stays low. He's also trying to race his way into the 500, and he'll go one lap down. But remember, the free pass rule is in effect should the caution come out. The first car one lap down would be moved back onto the lead lap before the restart.
Our top 15 drivers, you can see them there. They're 2 by 2 all the way back in less than 3/4 of a second of each other.
What I'm seeing in this race versus the first one, though, is that gap. Everybody's maintaining they're minding the gap, Larry. And they're just kind of maintaining that and not running over each other.
Well, but I think one reason they're having to do that, Darrell, we've already documented several of these drivers running a little warm on water temperature.
And remember what Dale Earnhardt Jr. said after the first dual race. He said, I can't do anything down the front straightaway because of the headwind. Can't push anybody, hard to make a move. Tailwind up the backstretch, headwind down the front straightaway. Matt?
And Larry Mack, to further add what you were talking about, that's exactly the issue for the 20 car of Joey Logano and the 56 of Martin Truex Jr., both running extremely hot. Logano about 230 to 250. The same thing for the 56 of Martin Truex. He's about 240, and he's pushing water again. That's why he's trying to duck out a little bit and try to get as much cool air as possible.
And Darrell, I think this is something NASCAR will have to look at before Sunday, because the way the rules package are, there's not anything they can even do on a pit stop. You have to run that opening that they have.
And Kenny Wallace sees his chances to make the Daytona 500 getting smaller out his windshield as he's lost the draft, and he has lost. Casey Mears has moved ahead of him, trying to catch the front pack. Steve?
Mike, add Kurt Busch to the list of those concerned about water temperature. He's said for the last 9 laps he's up around 280 degrees.
Whoa, you can't be there, buddy. 230 is a kind of okay. Anything above that and you're starting to get in trouble. You lose power, going to hurt the engine.
The first dual race had a caution at lap 9 that allowed things to cool just a bit, but we've been green flagged from the start here for 29 laps, halfway next time by. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Regan Smith up for 3rd, and Elliott Sadler has rebounded for 4th ahead of Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, and Joey Logano.
Yeah, Mike, you literally, when you fall back, you just kind of pick your way back to the front. You just get one on the inside, one on the outside, get a push, and first thing you know, you're right back where Elliott is after falling all the way to the back.
Dave Blaney in 12th, Joe Nemechek in 15th are the transfer cars right now. And Kenny Wallace has fallen 14 seconds behind. He and Bill Elliott, Robert Richardson Jr. still trying to make the race. Dick?
Kenny Wallace has just told the crew that the engine feels as if it is seizing up.
Well, that's just a shame. That deal came together so late. It's his NNS team that he races with full time, and just getting slower and slower.
Let's listen, Larry, see if we can hear anything.
Last lap for Wallace was 49.86. That's 4 seconds off the leader's pace.
I will say this. When you're not up there in that lead pack and you're running alone like he is right now, sometimes that engine does feel like it's about to quit.
But Wallace has to stay out there as long as he can. That's his only shot to make the 500.
Oh, yeah, until he gets lapped. Until I want a lap down, I'd ride until they at least come around to lap me. And then I got a lap down, I might do something different.
Biffle and Johnson leading. Biffle's owner, Jack Roush, has never won a Gatorade Duel race at Daytona in 24 years of trying. Sunday, get ready for the Daytona 500 with America's most comprehensive pre-race show. NASCAR race day. Pole sitter Carl Edwards, Sprint Cup champ Tony Stewart, newcomer Danica Patrick, and more on NASCAR race day fueled by Sunoco. Live from Daytona, Sunday, 9 a.m. right here on Speed. Greg Biffle leading 35 laps down of 60. No change among the front 4. Casey Kane runs in 5th. Kenny Wallace, trying to get in the race, was caught up by a pack of 3 cars, but he was unable to tack on and stay with them, leading to frustration and desperation.
Run by itself. You got to stay in the pack. We're done now. What do you think? I just wanted him to go by me? That's not what I'm saying. But you got to stay with him. Do the best you can.
Dick Berggren?
Kenny Wallace has determined that the fuel pressure has dropped to 40 pounds, Mike, and that, they think, is really the problem. It's not that it's blowing up, which they thought it was originally. He just doesn't have enough fuel pressure to the injectors.
Thanks, Dick. One other car may be in trouble. Matt?
My concern in the 78 pit of Regan Smith. About 6 laps ago, he keyed the mic and said, I've got a vibration, which is getting consistently worse. It's changed pitch. I think they may be losing the engine. Remember, he was one of several cars that were running very warm earlier in this duel.
Yeah, once you run so warm and it stays there, you definitely are going to get the engine in trouble. Now, the situation we're getting within about 6 to 8 laps of what's going to be green flag pit stops. You would think that may help these drivers that are running warm. There's still not much you can do. In fact, you hit pit road, they may even start running warmer.
Larry, down here before, I've been down here when the wind is gusting like it is today, and it would play with your mind. the car would buff a little bit. The car would buck up and get air under a little bit. It would mess with the air going in the air box, and you would swear something was wrong with your engine. But really and truly, it's just the wind.
Kenny Wallace coming in, making his fuel stop, hoping to cool that car down just a bit. NASCAR has said pick up your speed. They do have a minimum speed each car must maintain. Dick?
Well, there's not much that they're going to do about that fuel pressure problem, Mike, and that's really what they need to do to fix this thing, although they are working in the trunk in the area of the fuel pump, hoping that they can do something about that. He's pitting all by himself here on pit road. He'll have no partner with which to race.
Yeah, with electronic fuel injection that we're running for the very first time, all of the fuel pumps, the electric fuel pumps, are in the trunk of the car.
Yeah, there are 2 of them, and I guess there's a chance one could go out, and that would affect the pressure.
Pit stops begin. Bill Elliott, Bobby Labonte, and the 15 of Clint Boyer are on pit road.
It's 3 drivers that had well lost the draft, and they decided to hit pit road together. Joe Nemechek in the 87's on pit road.
Deals being made. When will you stop? Well, when do you want to stop? Because you don't want to come off pit road by yourself.
But the other thing, Mike, and Darrell will relate to this, when I'm looking there at about 15 or 16 drivers on the racetrack running in a pack, you almost don't want to be in that group of drivers all coming to pit road at one time.
It can get very interesting. I mean, you've got to really let your spotters got to let everybody know, and you got to get, here come some of them now, Larry, and you got to get that hand up. And these are guys that were at the back of that pack right there, which is a great move.
Boy, they came off in a hurry. Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch may have had trouble getting down to pit road speed before the commitment cone. Jeff Gordon's in. Dave Blaney, Mark Martin, and Martin Truex are all on pit road under green. Steve.
The plan for the 24 of Jeff Gordon, of course, he's been running hot right side tires and fuel, right sides only.
That was about half of those drivers. I think in the next lap or 2, you'll see the rest of them hit pit road.
And the right side tires completed on the 56 of Truex. He spent the last lap trying to duck that car out to get as cool as possible. His temperature continuing to climb.
Joey Logano comes in this time with his Joe Gibbs teammate. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth is in, Robert Richardson, all pitting on this lap.
A lot of fuel only.
Dick?
Well, they haven't been exactly happy with the chassis on Matt Kenseth's car. Matt.
And Jason Ratcliffe calling the shots on the 20 car, Joey Logano. Right side tires only, no adjustments. A little bit of trouble on the right front. Steve.
Chassis adjustment for Kyle Busch. Matt said he wanted a little more rear grip, right sides only for Kyle Busch.
Kurt Busch will receive a pass-through penalty. Too fast on pit road. He'll have to come down pit road at pit road speed as everybody continues under green. Now fortunately he's locked into the 500, and here come the leaders. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson come to the pit lane along with Regan Smith, Casey Kane, and Elliott Sadler. Dick.
Jimmy Johnson on pit road. The plan for the number 48, fuel only. Matt.
And the 16 of Biffle is already in. Tires coming off, going on, topping him off of fuel. No adjustments. Meanwhile, fuel for the 78 of Smith. Steve.
Casey Kane, right side tires for him. Also a track bar adjustment for Kane. Right sides only.
If you're one of those drivers that went with fuel only, you had enough of the other drivers that did it. You're going to put some distance possibly on those that went with right side tires.
Is that Joe Nemechek that's spitting a bit of water after having made that pit stop? Now he and his teammate Bill Elliott, those are both Nemechek cars.
Got to switch. Better do it fast, man. You can't stand that very long.
Now, obviously, by the new rules, he was not able to tell Bill Elliott that. He had to go through the spotters on top of the grandstand to tell Bill he needed to swap.
No driver-to-driver communication permitted this year.
Last year down here, Larry, when they would be hot like that and you would switch, it would cool the engine off so quickly that's what really was damaging some of the engines.
17 laps to go. Greg Biffle back to the lead with Regan Smith, Jimmy Johnson, and Elliott Sadler. 14 laps to go after pit stops. A 7-car breakaway at the front of this event. with 14 to go. And not among the leaders right now, Kyle Busch, who is back drafting with Joey Logano, trying to catch the lead pack, but not having a good day of it.
Something terribly wrong with the front end of this car, but I don't know what it is. I've been scared to drive it the whole race. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Steve?
And Mike, just heard crew chief Dave Rogers say 10-4, we're going to change the motor after this race.
That'll make it drive better. I guess he's waving there. He's got a. Looks like he might have a problem.
And actually, he's losing ground to Joey Logano just in front of him.
Yeah, I think he's got a problem.
He was spitting a little bit of water out the overflow, so maybe trying to get some air there. The teams are allowed one engine change between today's Gatorade Duel and the 500 without penalty. Now, of the go-or-go-home crowd, two of them are still on the lead lap. Dave Blaney has been the leader of that pack all this race. He's in 11th place for Tommy Baldwin, and Joe Nemechek driving his own car in 14th. Those are the only two trying to race their way in who are still on the lead lap. Dick?
Radios have been in action, Mike. The number 48 Jimmy Johnson and Elliott Sadler in the 33 are going to try to team up and go tandem at the end of this race to try to win it.
But you know, Mike, one of our themes of the day, talking about Joe Nemechek, he has well lost touch with the lead pack, but we said you needed a friend. Well, right now, his friend is the other driver's car that he owns, Bill Elliott, who is a lap down. They need to stay exactly like they are right now for 11 more laps.
11 to go. Michael Waltrip joins us from the Hollywood Hotel. And Michael, certainly not the day you wanted, but gave it a great effort, and looks like you've got your seat for the 500. We'll be right there.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I have a plan B, and that's to be with you guys, because it's a lot of fun to watch the races and listen to all that goes into bringing our great sport to the fans. And I'm looking much forward to being a part of that on Sunday. But certainly a tough day today for me and my Aaron's Dream machine.
Looked like the car had the speed that, had you been able to maintain a partnership out there, could have got you into the race.
Yeah, we were plenty fast. I was happy, and just had a miscommunication leaving the pits, and got down on the apron when I was supposed to be on the track. And I guess part-time competitor, not really understanding all the rules, I just made a mistake. I didn't race here in July. I didn't pit on Saturday night, and I went the wrong way.
Sorry that we won't see you in the 500, but we'll enjoy your expertise throughout the race.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Greg Biffle out front with 10 to go. Regan Smith right there. Jimmy Johnson, Elliott Sadler, Matt Kenseth, the front five.
I think what Michael was referring to is there's a blend line down there as you leave the pits, and you just have to stay on the bottom of the racetrack. He was on the apron. I think he picked up all that debris on his tires. That probably was a factor in the thing spinning around the way it did.
You know, a classic case of a couple of drivers that lost the draft early are right there behind our lead pack. Bobby Labonte in the 47, and we're riding with Clint Boyer in the 15. But you can see, ever since those green flag stops, they've been able to stay touch with that lead 5. But they are a lap down. Of course, the caution comes out. Whichever one of these two drivers is in front of the other would get the free pass.
Well, there's a man right there in that car that could have almost won the Daytona 500 down here last year. He was sitting in a really good spot on the last lap coming to get the checker.
Yeah, ended up finishing 4th.
They lap past Kurt Busch, who had to serve that penalty for being too fast exiting the pits on his stop. Busch came back up to speed, but the pack moves past, and he is now 1 lap down. Blaney 11th, Nemechek 14th. Those are the transfer spots, with Robert Richardson a lap down along with Bill Elliott, and Kenny Wallace 3 laps back.
One thing that's interesting, you see these guys are all in line the way they are, but if you happen to look to the outside just for a second, guess what? Somebody fills your spot, buddy, and you're going to slide back. That's what just happened to Elliott Sadler. He looked the outside just for a second. Matt Kenseth shot through the hole.
Seven to go this time by. Greg Biffle trying to deliver Jack Roush and Roush Fenway Racing their first ever win in the Gatorade Duel.
Well, he's been bad fast. I mean, Biffle has. He won practice both sessions, qualified on the front row, so he's got a good horse right there.
Jimmy Johnson had been in the top 5, and now you see him backslide in that top groove. Pick up the tail end. Elliott Sadler trying to help Johnson come back.
I think Jimmy felt like he needed a pusher. Where he was sitting, he wasn't going to get any help. And I think he felt like if I fall back here and pick up another Chevrolet, maybe they can get up on the outside and come back to the front.
Steve?
Tough day for Ryan Newman, about to come to an end, Mike. His temperature is up to 290 degrees. He said he's pushing water.
It's been an up and down day for Stewart Haas. Tony Stewart in victory lane. Danica Patrick in the wall on the final lap, and now Ryan Newman off pace.
Well, once an engine gets so hot and it starts blowing water out of it, there's not a whole lot. It's pretty much done. You're going to blow so much water out that you'll never cool it back down.
We'll be coming to 5 to go this time. I know Greg Biffle is set out front by leading 35 laps. As you see his owner, Jack Roush, starting his 25th year in Sprint Cup. But I just don't think this party's over just yet, because there's a lot of guys back there in that top 5 that I think they're going to try to do what Kyle Busch did Saturday night, time it just right on Greg Biffle coming to the end.
You're saying things have been too calm and too quiet for too long.
Yes, they have.
And you know what? Sometimes you kind of get lulled to sleep, too. I think maybe Tony Stewart thought that come to the line with Kyle Busch. He'd be happy to run second after all he's been through. I don't think Regan Smith's going to be real happy to run second if he can do something.
Kenseth third ahead of Johnson fourth there. And it's a big gap. It's 8 seconds back to Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. Jeff Gordon just hanging out 6th, 7th, and 8th.
What makes sense to me is if Regan would get out there and Jimmy Johnson could get to the Regan, then you got Biffle and Kenseth, the 2 Fords against the 2 Chevrolets. That could be a real drag race.
Four laps to go. Darrell, when do you want to make that move?
Coming off turn 4, coming to get the checkered flag, looked to me like, based on what I've seen down here lately.
So does that mean that Greg Biffle is the straw that stirs the drink, or is he a sitting duck?
Well, the problem that Regan's going to have, that's the right move down here now. Get out there, get that side draft, and try to beat 16 Biffle to the line. But the thing that's going to mess him up is you got Matt Kenseth that will fill that hole and push Biffle across the line. So Regan is kind of sitting there and like, do I want to try to win this thing or do I want to run second? I guess that's what he's kind of figuring out right now.
He's the one Chevrolet in the middle of that Ford sandwich.
Yeah, he knows what it feels like to run second. He did that to Kurt Busch a year ago in the dual race.
3 laps to go. Matt.
Dick Berger documented the 48 and 33 teams trying to work together where Sadler would push Johnson. Sadler's comment back to his spotter simply was, I can't do it for very long because I just simply cannot keep my car cool enough. It just keeps getting hotter. I try to duck out to keep it cool. No dice.
Yeah, he had trouble right there. He's going to lose contact with Jimmy Johnson, and he's going to fall all the way to the back of this pack. Sadler in the 33. I don't know what happened there, but he fell off in a hurry.
Now the 3 cars that moved up, though, are lap down cars. And that's Boyer, Labonte, and Busch. 2 to go. And again, Biffle brings him across. And here comes Boyer, who is a lap down, trying to spoil his party.
But watch these 2 drivers on the outside. Watch Matt Kenseth in that 17 and Jimmy Johnson in the 48.
Regan Smith aligned on the back bumper of Greg Biffle with 1.5 laps to go.
I think
Blaney in a qualifying spot, and Nemechek.
The water's blowing. It doesn't matter now. You're coming to the white flag. You're not even looking at the water temperature gauge.
The engine could be blowing. You don't really care.
You're coming to the front, and that's what matters.
Look at the difference. About 5 miles an hour right there going into turn 3.
Biffle on the bottom. Here comes his teammate Matt Kenseth with help from Jimmy Johnson.
He says,
Biffle slides up, covers the spot, and they go to the inside against him. What a move by Matt Kenseth.
Oh, no, what a bad move by Greg Biffle. He should have never done that. He should have held that bottom.
Uh-oh, the little tea kettle is Jimmy Johnson's.
Yes, it is. And you know what? They may still try to form something there going down the back straightaway, getting through 3 and 4.
Oh, no, it's going to be 48 and 78 now. That's what I figured they were going to do.
Biffle made a bold move. Kenseth made a bolder one.
Whoops.
Regan Smith to the bottom. Contact.
Whoops.
Contact again. And Kurt Busch a lap down on the outside.
But Elliott Sadler is on the lead lap that's pushing Kurt Busch up there.
Something happens at 33, though. He gets a run, and he has to back off. Like the car just gets loose or something. He can't stay in it.
Matt Kenseth trying to block 3 lanes at once. Regan Smith down to the bottom. Kenseth wins it for Jack Roush. Regan Smith is second. Jimmy Johnson third. Elliott Sadler. Greg Biffle led all those laps to wind up fifth. And the 2 drivers to transfer into the Daytona 500. Dave Blaney gets the job done. One more time for Tommy Baldwin. Blaney, former World of Outlaws champion, he's a racer. He raced in. And Joe Nemechek, who has made the 500 the last 2 years on qualifying speed, races his way in as he did back in 2007. Want to see it again?
I do, and I really feel like that. What Biffle, I mean, he was in a bad spot, okay. But I'm thinking if he hadn't have made that move up right here, he's coming off of 4. He knows that Kenseth in the 17 is coming. Here he decides to block, but the problem is when you make that cross like that, you lose your momentum. Those guys drove right to the bottom. He's got Jimmy Johnson pushing him, and Biffle he's out of here.
Jimmy Johnson is about blowing up.
And then on the backstretch, here's Matt trying to block 3 lanes at once. Smith down to the inside. Whoa, big contact with Jimmy Johnson there.
And that was huge, I think, for Matt Kenseth, because right there, Regan Smith was getting a good push by Boyer.
So Smith had to regroup, had no help, and Kenseth got just enough of a lead. I agree, Larry. The 2 Chevrolets getting the other in the backstretch pretty much handed that win to Ford today.
Yeah, you can't make contact like that on that. You just lose so much speed.
You know, we talked about maybe teammates helping each other. I don't think Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth were part of that conversation.
But the cat in the hat, he's probably happy right now, Jack Roush.
Matt Kenseth wins Gatorade Duel number 2 to earn a spot on the 2nd row for Sunday's Daytona 500. And here's your touch of gray, winning touch. Greg Biffle on defense tries to come up and cover the spot. Watch Matt Kenseth grab a bit of wheel off the bumper of Stanley Steamer there, Jimmy Johnson. And Kenseth drops right to the bottom with 1 lap to go and sails off to win it. His first dual win in his 13th try, Steve.
Former Daytona 500 champion Matt Kenseth to victory lane. And Matt, talk about the winning move, the move you pulled on your teammate Greg Biffle.
Well, really, I was back a little bit, and I was kind of waiting for Jimmy, and Jimmy worked really good with me today. He gave us a push to get us to the front early, and I was going to try to make a plan with him, and he got out of line one time, so I got up there to try to help him, and not sure how we got in front of him, but he gave me really the push to win. And this Ford was so fast thanks to Doug Yates and the guys in Engine Shops. They've been pretty stout all weekend. And real quick, I need to thank Best Buy, Sprint, Valvoline, Zest Soap, and for sure Gatorade. These are great races. First time I've been able to win one of these things.
All right, now I saw Jimmy Fennick, your crew chief, with his palms up like this. What was he saying?
He said I'm so bad at it. They're like, it must have been an accident. How else did you end up down here? So this car was really fast. When we got out front early, I could feel it had a lot of speed, and made a few wrong moves, shuffled to the back, but able to get it to the front there at the end.
All right, congratulations, Matt. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Thanks, Steve. Congratulations to Matt Kenseth, to Dave Blaney, who raced his way in, and to Joe Nemechek, who kind of had a tough day, got himself a lap down. But Joe, once again, you're in the Daytona 500.
Okay. Hi, Grace.
Coming to the checkers. We're in the Daytona 500, boys. Great job, Joe. We did what we had to do. Yeah, 10-4. Make sure you thank Bill for me there.
In 2009, Joe Nemechek did not finish high enough in his 150-miler. Didn't make the Daytona 500. And today, what an eventful day. Tell us about it.
I tell you, you talk about stress in your life. Oh, my gosh. I can't thank the people who helped me get here. AMFMenergy.com for your wood and heating needs. They also coming out with a new pellet grilled barbecue grill. You got to check it out. But it's just incredible. I mean, during the race, when we pitted, I had to pit at least 1 lap, maybe 2 laps early because the fuel pressure gauge went down.
So I didn't know if I was going to be out of gas. Just luckily my teammate Bill Elliott was on pit road at the same time. And, everybody mind their P's and Q's out there pretty good. Man, I tell you what a relief. I tell you what, there's been a lot of Tums taken this week. People just have no clue how hard it is. And working with very limited funds, we do a lot. Mom's pulling for me. My wife and kids are here. It's a big day to make the Daytona 500.
What they have a lot of in this team is a lot of heart. Matt?
Zach owner Tom Baldwin Jr. has already come by and congratulated his driver Dave Blaney. What does it mean for you, and especially TBR, to make it in the Great American Race?
Well, it's big for anybody, big for me, but especially big for the team. Man, oh man, you don't want to come down here with a car this nice and equipment this nice and miss the race. So, man, we had to run smart today and not take any chances and be a little cautious on the pit stop. But, flawless race car and could run near the front early. It could pretty easily. So, just relieved, I guess.
Good luck on Sunday. Mike?
Great job by Blaney, who always seems to drive to the occasion. Here's our Napa results of Gatorade Duel number 2. Kenseth, Smith, Johnson, Sadler, Biffle, the top 5. Logano and Busch some distance back. Gordon, Newman, and Casey Kane, the top 10. Mark Martin, Dave Blaney races in. Truex, Busch, and Boyer, and Labonte. Then Nemechek races in. Casey Mears, Robert Richardson disappointed. 2 laps down. He goes home along with Bill Elliott, Kenny Wallace, and J.J. Yaley. So here are the drivers who will not start the Daytona 500. The Wallace brothers, Kenny and Mike, Robert Richardson, J.J. Yaley, Bill Elliott, and for the first time since 1972, there won't be a Waltrip in the Daytona 500. Here's a look at the Gatorade starting lineup for the Daytona 500 this Sunday on Fox, with 3 Roush Fenway Fords in the front 4 spots. Edwards and Biffle won the front row last Sunday. Matt Kenseth wins his qualifier. So does Tony Stewart, who has 3 Chevrolets in that pocket. Stewart, Earnhardt Jr., and Regan Smith. Marcus Ambrose has been fast all week. So too Jimmy Johnson. Jeff Burton, Elliott Sadler, Michael McDowell, great job racing his way in. Logano, Harvick, Busch, Allmendinger, Jeff Gordon back in 16. And a look back through the rest of this starting lineup, a mixture of veterans and rookies and hopefuls. Nice job by Dave Blaney to race his way into the show just moments ago. Danica Patrick will have to shake off the effects of that hard crash at the end of duel number 1 as she starts from the 15th row with Clint Boyer. Paul Menard deep in the field. His car had been fast all week, but he got caught up in that wreck with Montoya and Gilliland. Joe Nemechek races in. Tony Raines and David Stremme, that little team with total personnel 8. But he's in the Daytona 500, and Terry Labonte gets the champion's provisional. Jack Roush celebrates with Jimmy Fennick as we look ahead to the Great American Race. And the Fords that won the front row and were so fast today. Darrell, they got 3 Fords, 3 Chevrolets right with them, Toyotas, Dodges, and boy, it's going to be a big deal on Sunday.
Oh, we didn't see a lot of 2-car tandems, and it didn't work out like I thought. I thought teammates in this race, particularly the second one, might have worked together to try to win this thing. But if you saw with Kenseth and Biffle at the end, there were no team orders. So it's interesting how things will shake out. I think one thing that lived up to what we always thought, though, the first one pretty wild, the second one pretty tame.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we learned today, and of course it's going to be a little cooler on Sunday, but that's going to help this engine situation, but a lot of drivers overheating. I know the Fords are fast, like you mentioned. All 3 of the Roush Fenway Fords, the first 2 rows, but can Tony Stewart, in his 14th try, he's had a good speed weeks, can he seal the deal on the Daytona 500?
Well, we'll find out Sunday. Michael Waltrip, you were in that first race. I was impressed from a fan standpoint at how nobody could get away. Whether it was a pack or whether it was a 2-car, it looks like cars could work together, and you did it. You could move up through the field and get to the front, but nobody was getting away.
Yeah, NASCAR's done a great job of making these cars just difficult enough to drive when you're pushing on each other, where you have to be very respectful of the other competitors. Down in the corner, you better not be pushing too hard. He'll spin out. And then you have the temperature you have to deal with. So there's a lot of factors that these drivers have to deal with, but a big pack in the first race, a lot of action, a lot of excitement, and And I watched my brother this morning on the pre-race. He said, the second one will be calm. I'll be darned, DW. You know something about what's going on out there, don't you, brother?
Hey, Mike, when the temperature starts to go up, how much time have you got to get it? How long can you run behind somebody with the temp going up before you got to bail?
Literally a half a lap, Darrell. I don't think that car, I don't think Jimmy Johnson had enough engine left in him to continue the speed. They just lose so much power when they go up around 260, 270. He was blowing water. They were pretty much done when they took the white flag. So I think about a half lap's all you got, and you really have to manage your temperatures during the course of the running.
I know, Michael, you came in here and sat with us. I feel like the Hollywood Hotel turned into Heartbreak Hotel when you came in. We feel so badly for you. But you pointed right to this. It was a race record speed in that second duel.
Yeah, if you like fast speeds and you like high banks, you better tune in to the Daytona 500 on Fox, because 194 miles an hour, that's amazing. They ran 150 miles at that kind of speed. It's going to be jam-packed action on Sunday.
Well, your buddy Dale Earnhardt Jr. said it will be epic. Do not miss this sort of racing, because what we'll see on Sunday, the coverage at Daytona International Speedway for NASCAR's biggest race, it's on Fox. Defending Sprint Cup Series champion Tony Stewart, and don't forget about rookie Danica Patrick, highlighting a full field of drivers looking to take home auto racing's ultimate prize. Fox Sports is proud to bring you exclusive coverage of the Great American Race, Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Of course, the duel all about drivers like McDowell, Robbie Gordon, Blaney, Nemechek. They can tell their friends they'll be racing on Sunday. Matt Kenseth wins, so does Tony Stewart. Larry McReynolds mentioned that Tony Stewart trying to win his very first Daytona 500. Matt Kenseth has won it before. Of course, Trevor Bayne wrecked in the duel last year, Michael, but went on to win the Daytona 500. Danica Patrick hoping history repeats itself.
Yeah, DW won his first Daytona 500 in his 17th try. I won my first in my 15th. Could be good for Tony Stewart. It's 14th.
We love the numbers. There will be some sleepless nights for drivers as they try to formulate a game plan. More coverage on Speed with Victory Lane and John Roberts right now.
The field is set for the 54th Daytona 500. There were winners, heroes, and broken hearts, and we will bring them all to you as NASCAR Victory Lane, presented by DirecTV, starts right now.
As we get ready to begin the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, green flag in the air, Carl Edwards hauls him off toward turn one.
If you're going to race, you got to make up your mind, I'm going to race.
A big crash in turn number one. One car in the low groove suddenly shot to the outside wall and took three more with it.
We know he's desperate. He's trying to get back up to speed. Did he jump up on the apron too quick?
But with the wind blowing the way it is, the turbulence off the other cars, these things move around more than you think they do.
Tony Stewart just got unbuckled, Hans' device off and helmet off.
For the dual race for the second time, he and Casey Mears. Green flag, 60 laps. And here come the leaders. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson come to the pit lane along with Regan Smith. Kenseth wins it for Jack Roush. Regan Smith is second.
Of course, every race is about the winner, but there is so much more to this Gatorade Duel. There are the happy drivers. They are in the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. Did not work out so well for others, as Kenny Wallace is among the 6 drivers that will not make this year's Daytona 500. Hello, everybody. I'm John Roberts. Welcome once again to NASCAR Victory Lane, presented by DirecTV. And there was a lot of heartbreak today, but also a lot of heroes and a few firsts along the way. Want to bring in Jeff Hammond and Kyle Petty. And Kyle, a lot of heartbreak, as we saw in Kenny Wallace's face. That is hard to swallow. You work, you try, and you don't make it.
Yeah, there was J.J. Yaley, Richardson. You look at Mike Wallace, but we saw Kenny Wallace, and it's been documented Kenny Wallace comes down here to make the race. Then we've got 2 past Daytona 500 winners. Bill Elliott goes home. And Michael Waltrip, we saw his accident. And it's heartbreaking for this guy. This will be the first time since 1972 that there's not a Waltrip in the Daytona 500. That's a big deal. It may not be to a lot of people out there, but that is a big deal. So when you look at it, these guys will go back. They'll try to regroup, but these were specific guys that were only going to run the Daytona 500. So it's not only heartbreaking for them and their fans, but it is for their teams too.
And Jeff, you have those guys that did not make it, but you also have the Dave Blaney's of the world and the Joe Nemecheks of the world.
You do, Johnny. And the thing is that's so important is the fact that there are great stories coming out of this deal. When you think about Michael McDowell, he had a plan, came down here, got some guys to work with him. You saw him talking to Trevor Bayne. Trevor Bayne worked with this guy to give him an opportunity to get and race his way into the 500. But another guy we don't want to lose sight of is that number 7 car right there on the screen. Robbie Gordon had problems right at the very beginning of his duel, and he never quit. He kept fighting, just like, Michael McDowell did, and in the end, both of these guys were able to prevail and get themselves in to what they've worked all winter long for, the Daytona 500.
Yeah, especially with Robbie Gordon starting off like that in the back of the pack smoking and ends up getting his way into the Great American Race. We have so many different stories to follow today down on pit road. To help us follow those stories is Bob Dillner and Wendy Venturini.
A day of heartbreak for many, but a day of celebration for some of those that raced their way into the Daytona 500. I'll chat with Michael McDowell and his shot of making the Daytona 500 coming up on NASCAR Victory Lane. Bob?
A couple of Cinderella stories in today's Gatorade Duel. One of them, Low Buck Joe. He's in the big dance, but you know what? A 2-time 500 champ missed the big show. We'll talk to both of them coming up.
Yeah, Bob, this isn't just a normal couple of races. There's so much going on in and out of these races. But another thing about this is I was very surprised to hear today that after, 24 years of trying, Jack Roush has never won one of these things. Well, Matt Kenseth got his first and Roush's first today. That's pretty cool.
It really is. But, I think it brings also into focus the fact that, winning a 150-mile or winning the duel, doesn't mean necessarily you're going to win the 500. It's kind of like one of those little caveats that if you can do it, it's a great momentum deal, but at the same time, it don't automatically say that Tony Stewart and or Matt Kenseth will wind up winning the 500. Now, for Tony, he's hoping so because he's been after this win. But fortunately, for a guy like Matt Kenseth, he's already won a 500, so he knows what it's all about.
And also, Kyle, there's not really much on the line for anybody else because pit position really doesn't matter much here at the Daytona 500.
It really doesn't. You want good pit position, but it's not as critical here as it would be at a Martinsville or a Bristol or a place like that. Talking about statistics and stuff, I read one this morning where it said no team had won both races, which means no Roush organization had won the first duel and the second duel. The Hendrick organization has never won the first and second. Childress, that stuff is amazing to me to come down here, as competitive as this sport is, and the dominance that we've seen out of some of these teams. No team owner has ever won both races.
Well, gentlemen, let's take a closer look at this lineup for this 54th running of the Great American Race. Carl Edwards has the pole position up. Row. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is up there as well in the 5th position. He will start side by side with Regan Smith.
I think that's really right there the biggest story right now for me. That Regan Smith won at Darlington, comes down here starting that number 78 team off very strong.
On back in the field we go for more of the starters for the Daytona 500. And we have Jeff Burton, who won a duel last year. Good to see Elliott Sadler back behind the wheel of a Cup car.
Elliott's in a Childress car, obviously, with Jeff Burton in there. 2 good runs for those 2 guys. As you go through that, Kevin Harvick led some of that first race and ran good. You got A.J. back there and Jeff Gordon in 16th position.
Jeff Gordon knows a thing or two about winning the Daytona 500. So does Ryan Newman and Jamie Mack. Couple of winners right there, Jeff.
Yeah, definitely so right there. But how about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets an opportunity now to race in his first Daytona 500 after a solid run for Jack Roush.
Keselowski, Dave Blaney there, David Reagan, and behind the wheel of a new car this time around, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle, with a lot to prove.
Yeah, obviously Martin has a lot to prove. I think those guys are looking for big things this year with the changes they've had. You look back there at Denny Hamlin, Bobby Labonte, who had a shot at winning this thing last year, right there.
And Danica Patrick, because of that wreck, will start back in the 29th spot, but again, not really indicative of where she ran. And let's take a look at the last couple of starters for the Daytona 500. Defending champ will start 40th. Tony Raines, David Stremme, and Terry Labonte gets the past champions provisional in the 43rd position. Here are the gentlemen that did not make the race. Kenny Wallace, Robert Richardson, Mike Wallace, Michael Waldrop, J.J. Yaley, and Bill Elliott. And those are some pretty big names up there. The 2 Wallace brothers, Michael Waldrop, a 2-time 500 winner, as is Bill Elliott. So it is hard to see those guys have to make this move up the road.
I just don't think anybody can understand, because if you've never been in a position where these teams are at, to how important it is to make it, but it's also how gut-wrenching and how sickening it is right now for everybody like on those teams. Kenny Wallace, Bill Elliott, all the guys having to load their cars up to know they've got to go back to North Carolina with nothing.
Well, we got to take our first break here on NASCAR Victory Lane. presented by DirecTV. And here's what we have coming up. We will talk to the big winner of Duel number 1. That, of course, is your defending series champion, Tony Stewart. Also, we will tell you about the guys who made their way in, the highs and lows of Duel number 1 with the highlights. And we will also have a chance to look at those highlights and analyze Duel number 1.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Brought to you in part by Dulce de Leche Cheerios, with a hint of caramel flavor in every wholesome O. Dulce de Leche Cheerios has a taste the entire family will love. And by Napa Know-How. Get the right part the first time.
Tomorrow, sparks will fly and metal will be crushed under the lights in Daytona as the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series kicks off the season with the wildest race of speed weeks. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live from Daytona tomorrow at 7 Eastern, only on Speed. Welcome back, everybody. It is a beautiful afternoon here in Daytona, and the Gatorade Duel races are in the history books, and you are watching NASCAR Victory Lane presented by DirecTV. These two little heat races set the grid for the Daytona 500, but also they mean so much more to so many people. Let's take a look now at Gatorade Duel number 1, which featured defending champion Tony Stewart and also his new driver and Daytona rookie Danica Patrick. Here are the highlights, and it didn't take very long after the green flag wave, gentlemen, to have Tony Stewart make it up to the point.
No, I'm not really surprised about that. I think Tony's got one of the fastest race cars down here, and he's just so good at this racetrack, Colin. He's just, 17 wins here now.
Yeah, he's just so good at reading and seeing where the traffic's going to go and finding that open hole.
Caution number 1 came out on lap number 8, and it was a pretty big one for this size of a race. And, guys, it kind of looked like an instant replay of the crash we've seen all week long.
It's everything that happened in the Butch shootout all rolled into this. You get on the left rear quarter panel of anybody, and you're going to spin. And the 98 car got on the left rear quarter panel of Gilliland, drove him back up the racetrack, and a lot of guys did a great job of avoiding this because this was a mess.
You did good there. Thanks. You never know if you should accelerate or decelerate a lot, so my old days would tell me to go fast, fast, fast and get by it. These days, sometimes you got to hit the brakes, so that was a little bit of both.
And as we take another look at that again, the guys who got the worst end of that one, of course, Juan Pablo Montoya sandwiched in between.
Yeah, and the thing was, guys that got took out were the ones, at least fortunately, that were locked into the 500, even though they got to go to backup cars. You know, it's better for something like this to happen on Thursday than happen on Sunday.
One of the new combinations we're looking at this year is crew chief Darian Grubb coming off the championship season with Tony Stewart. Now he is looking over the team driven by Denny Hamlin, and Denny Hamlin now finds himself out front.
And these guys have been kind of quiet down here this week. They've not really put up a big number for the speed chart in any of the practice. Didn't really see a lot out of him in the Butch shootout. But here these guys, once you get to the race, Denny Hamlin and Darian Grubb, I think as the year goes on, they're going to get better and better. They put this thing out front.
Yeah, and hopefully they learned something here today because of the fact that he kept him out there when he should have probably come down and get some fuel. In the long run, it cost Denny. He wound up being a lap down at the end.
And also we had some fuel strategy going on early in this race, if it's possible.
Give me some fuel now, Michael. We need to save fuel. I don't know how to do that when we're wide open, never lifted deep. So you got to tell me what you want to do. I want you to save me some fuel. So if you got to lift a little here and there, let's do that.
I'm going to defend Michael McDowell on this one. You can't save fuel when you're trying to race your way into the Daytona 500 and you run a racetrack that's wide open. This is not Chicago with Brad Keselowski and that thing where you can mash the clutch and cut it off, or Tony Stewart. You can't save fuel here.
You know, I hate to agree with you, but I agree with you.
That's rare. I thought Jeff was ready to give the crew chief side of this thing. Second caution, and guys, this was a strange one. This is two-time Daytona 500 winner Michael Waltrip.
I got a question for you on this. Do you have to leave the pits on the apron? I don't think you do. I think you can go out and blend into the bottom line. He drove all the way around to turn 2 before he tried to blend.
Yeah, that's the case right there. I think you're exactly right. He could have moved up maybe a little bit sooner. And again, I think it's just surprised him and it got him in trouble and it cost him.
All right, now we're back in the pack later in the race. Take a look at what happens to Danica Patrick as she gets a little nudge and takes a hard hit.
Ooh,
thank goodness for the safer barrier once again.
I'm telling you, that was a hard lick right there, Kyle.
Yeah, thank goodness for safer walls. And what happened was Jamie McMurray moved down onto Eric Almirola and forced Eric into Danica. She had no place to go. If not for that pavement, remember when that was grass, and if not for that wall, remember when that was a dirt bank, that would have been ugly.
But this part right here is what's amazing to me. She's coming along. She gets hit. She tries to save it. At the last second, look at her. She puts her hands up on her head. That's something you would see because of the open wheel experience she has. But this impact, JR, I mean, it just makes me hurt.
But you know what I liked about it? She tried to save it to the last second. She still had her hands on the wheels driving that thing until she saw she couldn't.
Veteran move, so she didn't hurt her wrist, but here is Tony Stewart taking the big prize. This is his third dual victory, and Tony has a great defense starting out here of his championship as he takes the victory. Now, let's take a look at who made it in. Back in the pack as Tony's celebrating victory. These guys just barely passed Trevor Bayne. It's Michael McDowell in the 98, Robbie Gordon in the 7, and they're in the Daytona 500.
You know, and I don't know if Trevor was cutting his buddy some slack or not right there, Kyle, but it looked sure enough looked like it. But, you know, that's okay. He was in, and he was trying to give somebody who needs a shot. Right now, Michael McDowell, as far as Phil Parsons, that team material is concerned, good effort by them, way to be in the right place at the right time. And Robbie Gordon, I didn't think he had a car fast enough to get in this race, and he made it in.
Didn't think he did either. Right there at the end of the race, you look at that. That's the lap before the wreck. But when you look at it, Michael McDowell finishes 6th. Robbie Gordon finishes 9th. There's always a hard duel and an easy duel.
Yep.
Even though, no matter what we talk about when it comes to getting in the race, this was a hard duel to race your way into.
5 cars crashed in the first duel, not in the second.
So Trevor Bayne, the defending Daytona 500 champion, will start 12th. Brad Keselowski back in 13th. Then it's Reagan, Almirola, and Danica Patrick who were involved in that late race wreck. Denny Hamlin 17th, and it's Michael Waltrip who does not make the Daytona 500. Terry Labonte is in by virtue of his championship. Gilliland, Juan Pablo, Paul Menard, and Landon Castle are all in the show by top 35 in owner points. Still have a lot to come on this edition of Victory Lane. We will talk to the champion and the winner. Tony Stewart joins us after taking the checkered flag. And also, Bob and Wendy are patrolling the garage area right now to bring us the big stories. One, of course, being the 98 car making it in and the agony of those who did not. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels, so you'll never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. On a very sunny Florida afternoon, the fans, well, they don't want to leave yet. There's still a lot of action left in Speed Weeks, but what a great start for the Roush Fenway group. They swept the front row in qualifying, and now after 24 years of trying, Jack Roush finally has a dual victory, and it was Matt Kenseth who gave it to him. Matt joins us now, and congratulations on a great run, great finish to this race. But how big is it for you, Matt, to give Jack that first victory in a pretty special race?
Yeah, thanks. It's always fun to win, obviously, but especially at Daytona during Speed Weeks, we've never been able to win one of these preliminary events before. So to have everything fall in place there at the end, and Jimmy Johnson just got hooked to me and just was really good to me there and pushed me for that lap and a half and got us up in that position. So I was able to get a big run there and able to hang on to that. And so it feels good to be standing here in Victory Lane, especially after wrecking twice last Saturday.
You know, Matt, you talk about the big push that Jimmy gave you. Coming through 3 and 4, you guys were, it was reminiscent of 2 or 3 years ago, and Carl and Brad Keselowski down at Talladega. But when you got right to that point, did you expect the 16 to come across?
Not really. I was thinking we probably would have went around them guys. What I fully expected was Jimmy to stay locked on me and pass me off of 4 like Kyle did Saturday night and win the race. But what happened there is Greg went up and did such a big block, and I was obviously going way too fast to push him. And I was afraid Jimmy wasn't clear when I turned down to go under Biffle, but he had just enough room, was able to stay by me, and I cleared Greg. And by the time we got to turn 2, I lost Jimmy, but to be honest with you, I have no idea how or what happened behind me from that point. So then I was concerned about being too far in the front, and thankfully nobody was able to really get lined up and make a run on us, because I was out there all by myself and figured I might be a sitting duck.
Well, Matt, you mentioned sitting duck. How much difference is this style of racing, compared to a year ago? And how different is it today on Thursday than what it was even Saturday night? I mean, it was kind of almost like it was a little bit calmer in your race. It wasn't the first duel, but, I mean, there were some pretty vicious blocks, especially, even by your teammate.
Yeah, it was a lot different today for me than it was on Saturday night. I thought the racing was just a little different. The handling came into play just a very small amount, but it was hard to recover. That one time I pushed Greg up to the lead, and then we couldn't stay attached, and he bailed to the bottom, and I lost 8 or 9 spots, and it really took me not getting tires and doing a few other things to work my way all the way back up to be in position to win. So I thought it was going to be easier to go from the front to the back to the back to the front, but it seems like it's at least today it was a lot more of a chore than what I thought it was going to be.
You've come to Daytona, and you've come to Daytona and Fords for a number of years, and when you drive different manufacturers, sometimes you come and they're the fastest manufacturers, sometimes you come and you're the slowest manufacturer. How gratifying is it from where you guys were with Ford 2 or 3 years ago to be here? The Roush team owns the front row, you own half the second row, that Fords have that little bit of an edge this year.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Yates, some guys do a great job in the engine shop. Ford does a really good job of supporting that engine program, as well as a lot of other engineering programs for us. So it's really neat to have Greg and Carl on the front row, and neither of them, I don't think, had any trouble today and tore anything up. So they'll be starting in the front, and I guess we'll be starting third or fourth. So it seems like all our cars have a lot of speed. We just have to do the right things during the day. Hopefully we're there then, can make it through 500 miles and hopefully be in a position to take advantage of that.
So, Matt, from the starting position, now you got a fourth position for the start of the Daytona 500. I mean, with all the crazy stuff that goes on, what do you expect after this week that we're going to see in the Daytona 500?
I think you're going to see a little bit of everything. I think it's going to be an exciting race, but depending on the weather, I also think it's going to be a little bit like it was today, where it's going to track position is going to be important. With the group being bigger, it's easier to make your way back up through there because you got much more dirty air, and the cars in the back are a lot faster. But it was still a little tougher to pass than what I expected to be, especially after everybody started getting in a line and didn't want to give up those spots. So I think it's going to be a really exciting Daytona 500. I think all of Speed Weeks has been really exciting, and I think that's going to continue here the next few days.
And Matt, we definitely agree with you. Congratulations once again. Keep up the good work, man, and good luck in the 500.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully I can sit by you guys sometime this year. It's nice to be on, but I wish I was out there with you.
I hope you do, Matt. Yes. Come by and see us anytime. That is Matt Kenseth, driver number 17, sporting the new colors this year and off to a great start. Well, he won duel number 2. When we come back, we'll talk to the winner of duel number 1. That's Smoke himself, Tony Stewart. This Friday, it's the return of Car Warriors, the only show where 2 teams mechanics go head-to-head in a 48-hour race to build the ultimate ride. Car Warriors returns Friday following Truck Series racing right here on Speed. Well, Tony Stewart has done it again for the 3rd time in his career. He has driven to victory lane after one of the Gatorade Duel races, and that sets him up in great position to attack the next goal, and that, of course, is a Daytona 500 victory. Well, right now we want to welcome in the defending series champion, one of today's first big winners, and that's Tony Stewart. Tony, first of all, congratulations, man. What a great way to start out the defense of your title.
Yeah, it really is. It's awesome to get this first win with Steve Addington, and like Office Depot said, we took care of business today. So really proud of our Office Depot Mobile and Chevy team, and just everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing and Hendrick Engines. We've had some great power this week.
Watching the Butch shootout the other night, you run second in the Butch shootout, get beat right at the line. That's a night race. That's the Butch shootout. This is one of the duels for the 500. Have people come to terms with this kind of race, and was this race different than what we saw in the Butch shootout?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, there were 2 different agendas today for the field, and most of the field was already locked in. There's a portion of the field that has to race like we did on Saturday night and make stuff happen. So those guys are pushing hard, but the rest of us, you want to race hard and you want to win this race, but at the same time, you got your eye on the prize on Sunday and want to make sure that you take care of your race car and don't put yourself in any compromising positions that could cause you to lose your car for Sunday.
Tony, you mentioned your new crew chief, Steve Addington. He, of course, won one of these last year with Kurt. Now he's with you. It seems like things are picking up pretty well between you two.
Yeah, he's really easy to work with. I've been pretty fortunate over 14 years now to have 3 awesome crew chiefs, and Steve just has fit right in with everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing. So it's nice to get this first one out of the way and take that pressure off of him of getting us to victory lane. He's done an awesome job so far, and I'm really proud of what he's accomplished in a short amount of time at Stewart-Haas over the winter, just to get acclimated to the team and the guys, and get us good race cars for down here.
Yeah, I hope when you get to the hotel or to the bus and you watch this race later, Danica did a great job in this race. She did everything she needed to do and was just a victim of circumstance. But obviously, you guys lose a car. Have you seen her progress as we've gotten down here this week? And what are your expectations of that team going into the 500?
I'll be honest. I mean, I kept watching in the mirror during the race, and I mean, she was up to 6th at one point, I think, behind us. So, you know, we just talked about, you know, I think it's so important. She wants to make sure that people that are around her understand that, you know, she's going to be solid behind the wheel and she's going to be solid with making decisions. So she's not going to, she's not a loose cannon out there running around and trying to pull out when she's not supposed to. And I think she's trying to gain their confidence. And obviously, you know, you don't want to lose a race car, but you know, we got really fortunate to not, you know, lose 2 cars in the shootout Saturday night, and we'll have a really good backup car for her here. So, you know, we got a great group of guys, and if we get Ryan in through this one without any trouble, I mean, we'll have the 3 teams to help get that backup car out and ready to go. And you know, trust me, she's got Greg Zipadelli at the helm, and she's got great leadership, so she's going to be in good shape for Sunday.
Hey, Tony, a lot of people have been using the phrase the pack is back for this weekend and also for the 500. Back to the pack race and the old style racing. Do you prefer it this way?
I do. I mean, it's just a lot better feeling knowing that you don't have to just be so steady on the steering wheel all the time that, you know, everything that you do doesn't mean it's going to affect one other person that's tied to you. So it's definitely made it a lot better, I think, in our opinion. I think everybody has to be more calculated. Before, it was just getting 2 cars together and hoping that when you caught a group of cars that you had somewhere to go. So, you know, we actually get to control our own destiny again.
Well, Tony, once again, congratulations. Way to go, and best of luck in the 500.
All right, guys. Thank you.
When we come back to NASCAR Victory Lane, presented by DirecTV, we'll show you exactly how Matt Kenseth got the win in duel number 2, and we'll also talk to Kenny Wallace about his afternoon and how it ended up. Stay with us, everybody. Much more coming your way from Daytona. Saturday on Speed, celebrate the start of the 2012 season with the biggest party in racing. Tune in as Chris, Kyle, Rutledge, and Marianella hang out with the biggest names in NASCAR. Don't miss NASCAR Trackside from Daytona, Saturday at 4:30 Eastern, only on Speed. Well, we talked about some of the drivers that were excited to be in this Daytona 500. Now it comes time for us to talk about another driver who is not going to be in the show. And it is our good friend Kenny Wallace. All week long, you've seen him trying to make the race with an underfunded and understaffed team. But Kenny Wallace is here with us now. We appreciate you coming out here, Kenny. I know it's a very difficult day for you, but things just didn't work out the way for you on the track that they were supposed to.
You need to thank my wife for me coming out here. She says you need to take a shower and get out there and do your job. So thank you, Kimberly.
But obviously tough day, Kenny. I know you wanted to be in that race.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the race really, really bad. I guess you could say it was an antagonizing situation to where, you know, you go back a week and they take the top 3 and I qualify 4th. Then all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, maybe if Trevor Bayne gets it in there, then, you know, I'll be able to go in on speed. Then all of a sudden Trevor on the last lap goes from 6th to last. So I'm like, okay, let's go. We can do it. And we ran great, and all of a sudden we lost the fuel pump. Never lost one before. So fuel pressure is supposed to be at 70. It went to 30, and the motor basically almost quit.
You were in the green on the scoring tracker for a while there.
Yeah. What happened to my car?
Well, Kenny, the bad thing about this new electric fuel ignition electronically is that you need 70 pounds for the injectors to work properly. And when you lose that kind of fuel pressure, all of a sudden it's not, you know, spraying down in the runners the way it needs to make the proper horsepower. So I mean, it's one of those agonizing situations with this new style. You got to have not only your brain working properly, you got to have the fuel pressure to go with it, because if you have not enough voltage and amperage, you can have that same kind of problem. But you know, you probably are one of the first teams right now to experience a problem with fuel injection.
So that's what happened to my car.
Ask and you shall receive. Well, let's take a look at the highlights now from duel number 2. And this one started out, again, under a very nice sunny sky here at Daytona. Beautiful Central Florida day as the green flag waved on duel number 2. Greg Biffle was leading the way as one of the fastest qualifiers on the last Sunday's qualifying session, and he quickly would jet out to the front and led a ton of laps.
You know, when we started this race, even though we were 3 wide here, everything was fine. I didn't see any drama. You know, I mean, nobody wiggled. It was a really, really calm race.
So, Kenny, you went back to the back of the pack. Tell us what's going on right here.
Well, we started 13th, and right now all I'm worried about is Nemechek right there. The inside was not good for me. I tried to make some moves there. My car, see how it wouldn't pull up there? Something was going on. I could not get up to the rear bumper. I had to run high, and right now everybody's just, logging laps. But I'm looking at that 87 car trying to get him.
Greg Biffle spent a lot of time out in that clean air, Jeff, and it looked like this might be one for him. But then again, this is Daytona, and you never know what's going to happen until the last lap.
A lot of times, you can get in that comfort zone, and I think that's exactly where Greg was. That 48 car, he really made it kind of like work. Jimmy Johnson sat back there, he's kind of biding his time along with Regan Smith. Everybody, I think Kenny said it right. Everybody was just logging laps right there.
Kyle, remember the old game show, Let's Make a Deal? That's exactly what they were doing right here.
And this is old school. We're seeing old school racing back on the racetrack in the packs, a little bit of the old school. But crew chiefs and crew members running from pit to pit. No longer do we have that radio communication from driver to driver.
And I like it myself. I mean, just being a little bit old school, I like it because of the fact these drivers have to rely on their teams to take care of them a little bit more than just chit-chatting from one another.
Got to pit with a friend here at Daytona, because if you lose that draft, you're going to go way in the back. And check out the last lap here as Matt Kenseth is on the move. Greg Biffle tries to block. Kenseth goes to the low side of the racetrack and is able to hold off a charging teammate of his and also keeping Jimmy Johnson on his bumper. But, Kyle, this was not over. Jimmy Johnson still could make that move.
And Jimmy Johnson's car is blowing steam, obviously because he's pushed. But when you see the 78 and the 48 get together, that slowed them down just enough that nobody could get a run back on Kenseth.
Matt Kenseth gets the win, climbs out victorious for the first time after a dual race, which is pretty hard to believe that it was also the first victory for Roush Fenway Racing at this race. Now, the guys who made it in, there's one of them, Joe Nemechek, and the number 87, and also the 36 of Dave Blaney. They were able to race their way in. Let's take a look at the results, see who finished where. In duel number 2 was Kenseth. Regan Smith with a second place finish. Jimmy Johnson, and again, it's good to see Elliott Sadler back behind the wheel of a Cup car also. Logano up there in the top 10. Kyle Busch, Gordon, Ryan Newman, and Casey Kane. On back in the field we go, and this is where it gets sort of interesting as Mark Martin finishes 11. Then it's Blaney who made this way in.
You've got to tip the hat today, Blaney, as well as Tommy Baldwin. So they took a gamble of giving those points away to Danica Patrick, and all of a sudden Dave once again showed why he has been chosen to drive that car for Tommy Baldwin. He gets that car in the race.
I'm not sure they gave them away, but I understand what you're saying. Something may have changed hands there. But here's the interesting part. Both cars that made the race in the first duel were in the top 10. Both cars that made it in the second duel finished in the second 10. And we talked about that.
Right.
Have one race that appears to be easier. This race would have been easier. Kenny had trouble, but there would have been no problem with making this thing.
Tony Raines and J.J. Yaley failed to make the show, but Tony Raines is in.
One thing I want to make a point about when they threw the checkered flag there is Jimmy Johnson's car was spewing water. When we run the Daytona 500 here on Sunday, they're going to have to take care of their car. You can only run that thing about 240 degrees for 500 miles. You've seen right there, Jimmy Johnson was in a very volatile situation. He was pushing, he knew it was the last lap. So, guys, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. They're going to have to take that car all the way to the end before they take a chance like that. He was losing water really quick.
Well, Twitter is one of the best ways for you to get involved in the conversation here with us on Victory Lane or Race Day or any other speed show along the way. Let's take a look at some. Here was one Twitter from Danica Patrick, or tweet rather. She said, wow, that was a bumper. A bummer. I am okay. Icing my sore spots right now, getting ready for the weekend. Thanks for all the concern. So you saw a hard hit for Danica. And also, Danica says, I need to thank NASCAR for the safer barrier.
Oh, absolutely right there. But the thing about her sore spots, she's probably sitting in the tub somewhere right now with ice all the way up to her neck.
I'm going to tell you something. Through the years, we've seen Rusty Wallace flip down through here. We've seen so many guys. When NASCAR paved that and put in that soft wall, that has saved countless lives. No, there's no joke.
Here's the story from Mark Martin. Our car overheated pretty bad, so we had to stay out of the pack, or we would blow it all the water out. And he says we will make it better for the 500. Much more to come on a beautiful Florida evening here at Daytona. The Speed Social Garage is your all-access pass to Speed Weeks. Go to speed.com now and click on the Social Garage to join in on the conversation with speed personalities, drivers, and industry experts. As the sun sets in the west, as our good friend Ken Squire always likes to say, here in Daytona, the temperatures are cooling off a little bit, but now we still have a lot to talk about. There, of course, the 10 car of Danica Patrick, who had a wild ride today, was one of the downs of duel number 1. And as with every duel race, there are ups and downs. So let's begin with one of the better stories of the day, and that's Michael McDowell racing his way in. Let's go to Wendy.
Michael McDowell getting the congratulations from his wife, Jamie, and their son, Trace. What a tough race for you, Mike. But talk about that friendship with Trevor Bayne today.
Yeah, it's huge help. First and foremost, I want to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And the bond that Trevor and I have goes beyond the racetrack. And for him to drop back and help me out and give me the push when I needed it to get me up front is just a testament to what that kind of bond's like. And just want to thank everybody at Kerback and Janie and Racing on the 98 car, and K-Love Radio, Christian Network coming on board this week. And just unbelievable to have Curb Records and all these different things that I'm such a huge fan of Christian music to be able to carry this brand and get us in our race. Pretty special.
We say how dreams are made and dreams are broken on a day like today. How special is this for you and your family? You are in the Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of nerves going into it, but just trusting in God and having faith and just holding the throttle down with 5 to go.
All right, congratulations, Mike McDowell. He is into the Daytona 500.
Michael Waltrip, a 2-time winner of the Daytona 500, will not be in this year's field. Describe your emotion, Michael.
I'm just really disappointed. It was, shaping up to be just like we hoped it would, and things were going well. And I had a miscommunication. Didn't race here last July, and didn't make a pit stop the other night, and just went the wrong way. And when I got to turn 1, lost the car.
Very disappointing, I'm sure. I mean, this race means so much to you, I know.
I just hate that I let everybody down. I drove it to the front, and then I let them down. Just really hard, but won the race before, and I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just sad. I'm sorry for my team. I'm thankful to Aaron's for giving me the opportunity, and hate I let everybody down.
Hopefully we'll see you back again, Michael.
Hope.
Even though Michael Waltrip is a 2-time Daytona 500 winner, sometimes in an athlete's life you think, okay, he's done it all. He doesn't really want anymore. But Michael wanted to make a record-breaking start here, the 75th start. If Michael would have made the Daytona 500, he would have been the all-time starts leader. That was in the back of his mind. But I know he's crushed, but he must have taken solace in this. He's a great race car driver. What happened to Michael is devastating to him because he lost the car coming off the corner. I feel bad for him, but Michael's probably watching. Michael, I love you. Sorry. It's devastating, but, all those things compiled. When I was a kid growing up, it was a human drama of athletic competition and the agony of defeat. And those two things is really what that was all about with Michael.
Absolutely. It's tough to see that.
Did you like that, Kyle?
In 27 years, there has not been a Waltrip in the Daytona 500. That's going to be very strange to see that unfold. Well, there are highs and lows to everyone. When we come back, duel number 2, we'll take a look at the highs and lows of that race. Get fired up for NASCAR's biggest race with the ultimate pre-race show, NASCAR Race Day. Danica Patrick talks about her Cup debut, plus Tony Stewart looks back at last year's epic championship battle, NASCAR Race Day, fueled by Sunoco, Sunday at 9 Eastern, live on Speed. Well, today's Gatorade Duel number 2 had its share of past champions and past Daytona 500 winners as well, but it also had a lot of nice stories along the way. And if anybody knows how to qualify, it's this guy here, Front Row Joe. Let's hear his story as we ask the experts, and Bob Dillner gets us the story.
Joe Nemechek used to compete for those big buck teams. Today, low buck Joe, you beat the big buck teams. You're in the 500. How does it feel?
What a relief. I'm telling you, there's been a lot of indigestion this week and a lot of toe mistaking. I can tell you, it's when you come down here, as a small team, we have spent so much money to get down here. And then to be put in a position that, man, you don't know if you're going to make the race and you've already spent all this money. I got to thank the folks that have got me here, AMFMenergy.com, DAB Constructors, SWM, the oil well folks. Just a big step. Those guys are how we got here. And making the race is just a bonus now. We're racing this race, going to try and be smart. During the race, it was stressful because we run hot all day on water. Then we were out of gas 2 laps before we should have been, so I had to pit early and that's how we lost the main draft. And it's just a crazy day. You know, just so much stuff happens. I got to thank the Lord and all the folks out there that have supported us and help us get to where we are.
Is this a make it or break it race for a team like yours, and how much of a relief is it?
It's definitely a make it or break it. The amount of work and energy that went into this, just having a small group of guys, a lot of volunteers that have come in and helped us do this to get here, just incredible. I mean, I can't thank these guys enough for everything they've done. It's a lot of work for not a lot of pay, but the reward is there. You know, they're all in the Daytona 500, and we'll do something special for them. And my sponsors, without them, we wouldn't be here.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears for Joe Nemechek, not to mention a lot of money just to make this race.
Tommy Baldwin racing in the Daytona 500. Dave Blaney racing his way in. So how is your pressure relief valve? Is it pretty to the max now, feeling good?
Yeah, I thought they stuck like a number 10 on me all week, but great day for Tommy Baldwin racing to get both cars locked in, obviously, and everything went according to plan. You know, everything that we talked about all went along, what we needed to do, how we needed to do things. Guys worked their guts out all went along to prepare all these cars. Heck yeah, we got this 36 Ollie Bargain Outlet Chevrolet in the show, and you know, unfortunately, Danica hit hard there in the primary, but they have another one ready to go, and see what happens Sunday.
Now, what happens with your strategy for the rest of the week with Dave Blaney?
I think we're going to try a couple things tomorrow. We had a couple gauge issues that we got to work out, and then run a couple laps by ourselves, and then put our race engine, run a couple laps on Saturday, and get ready for Sunday.
All right, congratulations being in the show again.
Well, guys, they keep talking about, you know, the money. The thing is, $260,000 guaranteed to Joe Nemechek, Tommy Baldwin. That means they're going to get a pretty nice paycheck by starting the Daytona 500, and they can improve upon that if they can have a pretty successful outing.
And over the last couple of years, Tommy Baldwin Racing has been one of the best stories down here at Daytona and continues to be that way. Now the sights set on the Daytona 500. A lot of work going on in every garage stall area. And we're not done here yet. We'll take a look at the 500.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels so you never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DIRECTV. Brought to you in part by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Goodyear, more driven. And by Coors Light. A sport this hot needs a beer this cold. Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer and the official beer of NASCAR.
A beautiful sunset over Lake Lloyd puts a period on this day. A big one for us here on Speed, but also next May there's a pretty big day as well on Speed and at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a Wild West shootout you're not going to want to miss.
The NASCAR Gunslingers are back at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they're ready to settle an old score.
Well, boys, I said I'd be taking home all the loot, and here we sit.
You sure you came by that loot in an honest fashion, Carl?
My money says things go a little bit differently this year, boys.
Hey, somebody's cheating.
What's the hold-up on the biggest dang HD TV in the land?
The Sprint All-Star Race, May 19th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Call 1-800-455-FANS.
Now, I never think it's a good idea to give Hammond a firearm. I don't think that's wise, but nonetheless, we got to talk about this shootout that's coming up, man. It's going to be a great one. $1 million on the line for NASCAR's best. Charlotte
I'm telling you right now, I would not trust any of those guys we've already seen on television. I won't trust anybody in that race if I was running it.
Yeah, but this is what you're going to need in that race. You're going to need a bullet.
A good bullet.
You're going to need a good bullet because that's what it's going to take to win.
Yeah, hey, and guess what, Kenny Wallace? You're going to need a good bullet to win the Daytona 500. Remember Trevor Bayne last year.
Right.
Remember Ward Burton a few years back. What are your favorites? What can we see? Another upset?
First of all, Trevor Bayne wrecked in the Twin 150 last year, came back to win the Daytona 500.
What do you think, KP? You're just going to go start
I'm just going to start shooting. I don't know. I got no favorites. You know what I mean? I want to congratulate Kenny Wallace on coming out here. It took a big man to come out here
big
today.
Man right there to do that.
Right there. I got no clue for
but Kyle, that's why he didn't have a gun, so he won't hurt him.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. But the thing is, I think you got to worry about guys like Tony Stewart. He is showing a lot of strength. Saturday night and today's win, better watch that 14.
Well, we had a lot of heartbreak today, a lot of heroes, but also in the end, the big winners were Matt Kenseth and Tony Stewart. After a wild day, now the focus is on the Daytona 500 and who can win the big race. Well, the dual races are over, and Daytona is starting to get quiet. There's still a lot of buzz in the garage area after a wild day, and we are set up for an even better Daytona 500 where anything can and will happen. Duel number 1 today featured some of the best in the business. And of course, one of the best when it comes to racing at Daytona all time in Sprint Cup competition is defending series champion Tony Stewart. Let's take you back to earlier today to race number 1 and check out how Tony Stewart got it done. Kenny Wallace, it did not take Tony very long to get to the front of this pack.
No, it didn't, but what surprised me is how fast the Fords have been in qualifying. And Carl Edwards, you think he's just going to rock it out there. He does get a good jump, but look at this. Goes right to the high side right away. And here we are. We're starting to pan out, but look, here comes the bottom. Maybe he should have stayed down there.
You see some smoke from Robbie Gordon's car, and that'll be interesting for what we have to tell you a little bit later. But here comes the first caution. And, gentlemen, this is reminiscent of every wreck we've seen so far this week.
Well, the thing is right now, we saw Michael McDowell. I think he got a little bit aggressive right there, got in the back of David Gilliland, drove him up into the 42 and the 27, and pretty much just ruined their dual effort right there. And this is hard hits, too.
And Danica Patrick did an excellent job of avoiding this mess, but we wasn't too sure exactly what to do.
You did good there.
Thanks. You never know if you should accelerate or decelerate a lot, so my old days would tell me to go fast, 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 and get by it. These days, sometimes you got to hit the brakes, so that was a little bit of both.
Another look at this wreck, and one of the guys who got the worst end of that, of course, was Juan Pablo Montoya. He'll go to the back of the pack for the Daytona 500, but again, it's Daytona, so you can make your way up from the back.
The first thing I noticed is all about timing and circumstances in life. I mean, Michael McDowell comes within 1 inch of not being in the Daytona 500. He misses that wreck by just an inch.
One of the new combinations we're looking at right now is Darian Grubb and Denny Hamlin. They're doing pretty good, Jeff.
They are doing pretty good. I mean, they led a lot of this race right here, but I think when you go and start looking at this first duel, things that we learned was, number one, definitely just like Saturday night, stay off my left rear, but also don't pass up an opportunity to put fuel, especially in these race cars with this new fuel injection.
As we take a look at Denny Hamlin leading, we also heard about some fuel strategy going on, and if you question that, well, so did the driver. They told him to save fuel, and Michael McDowell said, how exactly do I save fuel at Daytona?
Give me some fuel now, Michael. We need to save fuel. I don't know how to do that when we're wide open, never lifted deep. So you got to tell me what you want to do.
Yeah, I want to...
some fuel. So if you got to lift a little here and there, let's do that.
I'm going to defend Michael McDowell right there. There's no way to save fuel in Daytona. Here he is trying to make the Daytona 500. He's running wide open. There's nothing he can do. This is not Chicago with Brad Keselowski. This is not New Hampshire with Tony Stewart and places like that where you can clutch it and cut it off. He's got to go for it.
I want to know the crew chief's name. I want to know who that is because I want to talk to him. I want him to teach me how to do that.
We'll get you that. Take a look at Michael Waltrip's wreck here. This is a two-time Daytona 500 champion. And it was strange.
Yeah, it was strange because I don't think Michael understood the rules. You can leave pit road and get back out on the racetrack. Michael rode the apron all the way through 3 and 4 and just absolutely got part of it up on the racetrack, and it got away from him.
Hot tires and debris down there didn't help him any at all.
Final lap, Danica Patrick in the green car in the back of the pack right now, trying to just hold her position, gets a bump there, and takes a very hard hit.
But if you look at that close, Jamie McMurray, the number one, goes down. Watch to the left. He goes down into the 43. So, that was an accident. Nothing can be blamed on Danica.
It was a chain reaction. Everybody wants to blame Eric Almirola. Eric was the guy, the sandwich. He was the meat in the sandwich. It was not Eric's fault.
Watch her. She's trying to save his car and all of a sudden realizes, takes her hands off the wheel and just nails that inside safer barrier.
Harry Gant calls that aborting. That means you're done. Abort. And she did a good job. I mean, she, that seat did a great job. She was not injured at all.
Thank goodness for the safer barrier. Danica was fine after that. Her boss, Tony Stewart, was fine after the race as he wins his third Gatorade Duel race, climbs out, and what a way to defend that championship, starting off with a second place and a win in the first 2 shootouts of the year. So now who made it in this race? The 98 of Michael Waltrip and the 7 of Robbie Gordon. They passed Trevor Bayne, and that means those 2 guys will race. Let's hear from Robbie Gordon as he started out smoking, but in the end made his way into the Daytona 500.
We just had a lot of bad luck lately, and I'm like, oh man, we're going to get bit again. And
you know, to be able to finish where we did and race our way in, we're really excited. Now all we got to do is get our car through tech, which I feel good about it. We didn't make any adjustments, put 2 right side tires on it, so I feel good about it, and just really happy for our guys. Happy for Michael McDowell too. I mean, he finds himself in the same position that we're in, and man, I have to tell you, in this economy, in this business, it's a bad position to be in, and we had to make it, and we did. So proud of all the guys here at the racetrack and the guys at the shop, and Mape.
Let's go into Twitterville once again. Tweet from Robbie. Hell yeah, I'm in the Daytona 500. I haven't slept in 3 days. Well, he can sleep tonight, and I hope he does, because that is a great position for him to be in. Last place in the Daytona 500 pays approximately $250,000. For a small team like that, Kenny, a team like yours, the money you spend on building these cars, that can sure go a long way to make that back up.
Absolutely, but what is really interesting is Robbie Gordon earlier said, look, my team's up for sale. Well, no, maybe it's not up for sale. I'm looking for investors. So I believe that Robbie, look, I got a lot of respect for this guy. I call him the Frank Sinatra of NASCAR. He does things his way. I admire him. But I think Robbie is on his last leg. He needs some investors, and this is a great way to keep him surviving. But, man, I'll tell you what, it's a hard road what he's doing.
Yeah, congratulations to Robbie Gordon and all the guys who raced their way in today. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will show you exactly how Matt Kenseth made a little history for his team owner, coming up next on Victory Lane, presented by DirecTV. Welcome back to Daytona, everyone, as the sun is starting to set on a beautiful Florida night. We are wrapping up the Gatorade Duel Day. The numbers behind this thing were pretty simple. It was 10 drivers going for 4 positions in the Great American Race, and they had 2 races in which to get it done. Let's move on now to the second duel and take a look at this one from the green flag, as you had plenty of past Daytona 500 winners and plenty of drama as well. It was Greg Biffle who led us from the point in this race, and also spent a lot of time out front, Kyle.
Yeah, this is your first highlight, and then we have one more highlight, which is the end of the race. This race was a calm race compared to the first race. There was a lot of racing in this race, though. I think we saw guys probably learn a little bit more in this race than what they did in the first race.
And, Kenny, there was a lot of talk about overheating from this race.
Overheating is the story right now. We have read all these tweets over the last half hour. Jeff Gordon, that man right there, said, tough day for me. Had trouble keeping the car cool, and that man right behind him, Mark, the kid Martin in the blue 55, he said, tough day for us. Overheating. Everybody's overheating.
All right, here comes Kenny Wallace. At this point, he had green next to his name, meaning that he was going to be in this thing. Kenny, what happened?
Well, we're running good right there. You know, we got Elliott Sadler, we got Kurt Busch. But what happened? My car just started slowing up. We should have had 70 pounds of fuel pressure. We only had 30. See the car slowing up there? I should have been running 8,200 RPMs. I was down to about 77. Right then, I knew something was wrong.
This was a familiar sight throughout this thing, Jeff Hammond. Also, the Fords have been very good. And here, one of the Fords is leading the pack.
Yeah, he was able to kind of work his way after leading early. He got kind of shuffled back, able to get back up there, I think, really with the help of his teammate and eventual winner, Matt Kenseth, to the lead this deal. But it seemed right there that Jimmy Johnson was pretty content. Just follow Greg Biffle and try to size him up, maybe to try to make a run on him later on.
Well, we called this earlier. It was like that old game show, Let's Make a Deal. And they were making a deal.
Yeah, and this is old school, where we see team members from one team run down to the next team and say, can we pit together? Can we come to pit road together? Because you want to have that guy to draft with you when you go back out.
If you're by yourself, you can't pick up the speed.
You can't pick up speed. And right now, what they were discussing is, what are you doing on your pit stop? And they said, we're going 2 tires. We'll go 2 tires. That way we'll stay together and kind of benefit one another if at all possible.
1 to go. Here's when the shuffling goes on. Look at the block. Greg Biffle puts on Matt Kenseth, and then Matt Kenseth goes to the low side with Jimmy Johnson in tail.
Is that considered a block? Is that considered a block when it doesn't work? That wasn't a block.
It was an attempted block.
That was an
alleged block.
And Matt turns left, and right there, he gets away from Jimmy Johnson a little bit. Jimmy wasn't sure he could squeeze through. But as you see the 78 car of Regan Smith come back to the inside, we'll see the 48 and the 78 bump a little bit, and that gave the 17 plenty of room to get out in front.
So Matt Kenseth takes the checkered flag here, gets out of the car with the first ever win in a dual race for himself, and also the first ever for Jack Roush. Here are the guys that transferred in. Joe Nemechek, and it was also Dave Blaney for Tommy Baldwin Racing that have raced their way in to the Daytona 500. With that in mind, let's take a look at the lineup for the 54th running of the Great American Race. The front row has for Jack Roush Racing.
You know, the 78 of Reagan Smith lined up third row outside. He did the same thing last year, finished second in the twin. Good, consistent run for him again for the second year in a row.
Ambrose and Jimmy Johnson side by side. Jimmy has one victory at this Daytona 500, and that, of course, propelled him to a championship.
Look here, right there back on the row number 5. You see Jeff Burton, a winner from last year's duel. Good finish for him. But how about our buddy Elliott Sadler right there? Good to see him back in that Richard Childress car running well.
And also in a good starting position as well. And Elliott Sadler, I'm sure, believes that if you are in this race and you don't wreck, you could win the thing. Anything can happen, as we saw last year.
Nationwide is always wanting me to give them a shout out. How about our past champion? Ricky Stenhouse is in the Daytona 500.
And Danica Patrick will be back there with Denny Hamlin, Bobby Labonte, and Clint Boyer looking to move their way up through the field, because we saw over the years, guys, it's not too good to hang around back these days.
No, it's not. She's going to be a little bit sore, isn't she, Kyle?
Yeah, she's going to be a lot sore. That was a tremendous hit. But I tell you, wall held up, car held up, everything held up like NASCAR planned.
Tona Raines is in, David Stremme, and also Terry Labonte by virtue of the past champions provisional. Let's now go to Wendy Venturini for more. Wendy?
Thank you, Johnny. While some teams are worrying about overheating for the rest of the weekend speed weeks, many of the teams that were involved in the incidents in the dual races are concerned about fixing their race cars and the sheet metal. You can see Jamie McMurray's car and the neighbor right next door, Brad Keselowski's car, just got covered up, but they threw some Bondo already on Jamie McMurray's car and already sanded it down. Body guys have been very busy. They're taking advantage of every single minute NASCAR has given us. We are just moments away from these garage stalls closing for the evening. Bob?
And Wendy, right now, a lot of politicking going on in the garage area here as we speak, and a lot of engine swaps. Now, these teams are allowed to swap engines anytime from right now until the Daytona 500, but they only have that one engine to swap. A little earlier on, we saw Jeff Burton actually swap his engine, and there is a lot of concern about the heating issues. And we're not talking about water temperature. What we're talking about is oil temperature. And I talked to some of the engine experts here in the garage area, and some of the teams were running as high as 300. And that is super high, considering that the temperature range usually needs to be about 250 for these guys to feel very comfortable. Now, several people have actually gone and lobbied in the NASCAR hauler right here before the garage closes, including some drivers and some manufacturer reps as well, because a lot of people tell me at 300 degrees, those engines are not going to make it 200 laps.
Bob, thanks a lot. Of course, keeping your cool under pressure at Daytona is important, and especially it's important under the hood of the race car as well. We want to thank you for joining us for this edition, extended one of NASCAR Victory Lane, presented by DirecTV. Little overtime here for us, and also now it is time to go to Camping World Truck Series practice.